Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the weekly Warcry. I'm your host, Norgoz, and we've got a great show for you tonight. We've got some important topics that we're going to be talking about, and I have a wonderful guest with me that I'll be introducing here in just a moment. And of course, guys, we do this show to bring together experiences and insight that you may not have gotten otherwise, and we have bring you meaningful discussions about community-driven topics. And our topics tonight are cross-play slash cross-save. We're going to be talking about proper ganks, how important they are to winning matches. We're going to be talking about spectator mode. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It is out, it is in beta. You can play with it right now. Stop it. Stop it, y'all. And then we have a little bit of talk that we're going to do about shoutcasting. And I've got the perfect person. If you want to unmute your mic now, my man, we're going to bring you on right here. We have
Hello there.
the absolutely perfect person to talk about shoutcasting, and that is none other than Mr. Verbalosity himself. Thank you so much for being here tonight, man.
Hello, Gov. It's nice to be on. I'll admit, my traditional podcast curse has not followed me. The last time I was on a podcast, my PC was blowing up, but fortunately, I think things should be okay now.
I'm gonna knock on some wood right now just to be safe. Um, but yeah, no, for sure. I'm glad, and I know that you were sick recently, but now that you've recovered from that, it just sounded like it was a nightmare to deal with, and I'm really glad
Yeah,
that you're feeling better.
the long and short of it was, oh hey, you had a good time in Montreal with the Verona stuff. You had a pretty good couple weeks. Your birthday's coming up. Oh, guess what? That's too much good luck. You will die now.
Oof.
And I had the worst viral infection that was misdiagnosed. It was a whole thing. Like, but fortunately, I'm on the other side now. And it seems like uh half the Verona community is now getting sick in my stead. Like, I think Daddy Law might be sick right now
Oh no.
potentially or something on Twitter. Like, I think maybe one or two other people I know in the Smite community. Like in general, like, ugh. Fortunately, I'm out of it now, and I could talk, and I'm here on the podcast, so I'm thankful for that.
And we're thankful to have you here, man. It's been I've been looking forward to this all week, and I've actually wanted to have you on for a while, and I'm glad that I was finally able to snag you. And it's been I think it's a great opportunity for the community to hear from you in this capacity. So again, thank you so much for being here, man. I'm really looking forward to this discussion.
Oh, happy
So
to be here.
to get started, guys, we're going to be talking about crossplay slash cross save. And the reason we're going to be discussing this to give you guys some context is recently, Ubisoft, you guys didn't see that. um,
Aha.
yeah, you guys did not see that. Okay, so here we go. Recently, the Ubisoft CEO, I'm not even gonna try and pronounce this name. I'm gonna mess it up, and I'm gonna disrespect it. So I'm just not
Yves
even gonna do.
Guillemot? Is it
Thank
Yves
you.
Guillemot?
Yes.
There we are.
So there you go. I'm like, I know I could maybe get the last name. I'm probably gonna butcher the first name, and I don't want to disrespect it like that. So they announced a plan to bring crossplay to Ubisoft's PvP titles. Now, what that means is, and it wasn't stated specifically which ones they were referring to, but clearly that means two. That's Rainbow Six Siege and our beloved For Honor.
We should probably also point out, for the sake of our own safeties, in case we want to get ambushed by Light Boogie,
Uh
that
huh.
technically also that could mean Tom Clancy's Ghost War. Like, Breakpoint and Wildlands, because I know Boogie's quite into those, and they're also PvP. So potentially those as well. Basically, any Ubisoft title with PvP, you
Right.
can infer from that statement. But the big two,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, are Siege and For Honor. So what's going on with that is the question.
That is a very good question. They also have a game that's in the works that has something to do with roller derby, and I can't remember what exactly it's
Yes, Roller Champions.
roller champions. So I
Yes,
don't.
they came out with a demo for that for E3,
Yeah,
and it was surprisingly fun.
yeah. I didn't get a lot of time with it, but it seemed like it could be. It seemed like it could be something, and I thought it was a an interesting take on
The
a
Rocket League format.
yeah, kind of like a Rocket League kind of thing. And I think that there's definitely something that could be there for them. I'm very, I out of all the companies in the world, you've got a lot of big names that are out there, but Ubisoft is one of the ones that, and then there's others that kind of delves out into the wilderness to kind of see what they can do. Ubisoft is one of those companies that really does dig down deep to find the things that the next big thing that people didn't even know that they needed. I think For Honor is a perfect example of that. They found a fantastic, creative developer with Vandenberg, and then ever since then, they still have maintained this game in a very interesting capacity. I mean, from the get go, I've loved this game. I mean, we've all had our qualms with some issues here and there, but overall, it's just been a hell of an experience. You can't get this experience anywhere else. It's kind of similar when it comes to like Rocket League as an example. I don't think Rocket League has any real direct competition, so it would be interesting to see Roller Champions roll in there and kind of dunk on the
Shameful.
just kind of see what they can do with the competition. I mean, there's a huge market for that there. Everybody knows Rocket League. Everybody loves Rocket League. There's It's just fun. It's just fun. That was one of those games I would stay up till like 4 in the morning, drunk with my friend, and play.
And Rocket League, by the way, is one of the best showcases right now of crossplay.
Yes, it is, and that's
It
a
it was one of the ground laying games before we got to sort of the PS4 now open for business era.
right.
Like it was one of the games that could do like Steam to PS4, Steam to Xbox, Xbox to PS4. That got opened up way later, but that was one of the ones. So with a game like Roller Derby, which is like not too big on like FPS requirements, like you get that at 60 FPS, not a big deal. Like controls, I played it on a controller, mouse and keyboard. Perhaps it plays fine. I never
Yeah.
played it with a mouse and keyboard. They did recommend controller, but
Mm-hmm.
luckily, PC being PC, you can just plug one in.
Yep.
So, like, Roller Champions is definitely set in terms of a cross save, cross play style. But the big two, Siege and For Honor, those for me, Norgoz, have a lot of ramifications depending on how they do it.
Yes, and I'm glad, and that's a perfect segue. So I want to acknowledge what you said about Rocket League. That is, you're correct. That is it's a perfect example, and I can personally give an example, and I'll bring this and tie this back in with For Honor and Siege, with what you just mentioned in terms of population. I know a long time ago PS4 had the biggest population. I don't know offhand
The
which one.
PSN Plus blew that game out of the goddamn water.
It
When
was
they offered it for
crazy.
free for 1 month, holy shit.
It was crazy. I did a video about crossplay a year or two ago. Actually, now it's one of my biggest videos on YouTube. Believe it or not, it's only like a 3.5 minute clip, and I'm just talking. Have hyper claps, little pat on the back. It was, and I'm just kind of discussing objectively, like there was a recent event at the time, and it was like 100,000 kills or something for whatever event for Xbox, 100,000 kills for PC. For PS4, it was like two and a half times the other ones or something like that. It was more. It was like more than double. And I'm like, that's a substantial amount. And then brought up the question, what about crossplay? I kind of want to fight the best of the best, and not always the best of the best are not always on my platform. But the hangups, like you said, was you've got input delays, you've got limited FPS, and there's a lot of concerns that would be bringing up, and that's partly why we want to discuss it. But I can tell you, I want to talk about population of Rocket League before I get your get where your mind's at on this. Uh, when Xbox when it came out on Xbox, because Rocket League was on, I think it was on PS4 before it was on PC, or then it became to PC. Then they both came cross-play or whatever. I think almost immediately or whatever. And then, but when it went to Xbox, it was just Xbox. And when Xbox first came out, because it shows the numbers when you log in, exactly how many people are online. It was, I think, maybe 50,000 or something. And then, like a week or two later, it was down to like, I don't know, like 12,000 or something.
It bled hard.
It bled really hard. Yes, it's a good analogy. It bled hard. Then a few weeks later, they made it cross play with PC, and then later on, I think a year later after that, we got the cross play with PC, PS4, Xbox, and that was a hell of an undertaking. That was a hell of an undertaking. Getting Sony and Microsoft to play nice, that's kind of an interesting thing. Sony does not like to. No disrespect to Sony, it's just a matter of fact that it's clear that they don't want to involve themselves with other consoles. I understand the reasoning behind it. I genuinely do. That said, at the end of the day, we're all players, and whether or not we play on one console or the other, we're still playing the same game.
Yeah,
So,
it's like I'll talk about this a little bit more later in terms of specifics, but that's one of the big like barriers for like crossplay, cross save, anything is that business side.
Hmm.
Like the technological side of things has been fairly well hammered out for the most part. Like one of the biggest examples I'll talk about in terms of crossplay, cross save, and problems: Destiny 2 New Light and Bungie. They have been very transparent with how their stuff has worked because they have cross save in there.
Hmm.
That came with the launch of Shadowkeep and Destiny 2 New Light, their free to play expansion.
That was a
They're
big
basically
thing.
the one that came alongside it. And cross save was one of the big cruxes. Like, you can't cross play, but all your stuff carries from platform to platform to platform. You choose which one is your anchor point platform, and it clones from there.
Hmm.
So, and that was one of the most amazing articles I remember reading about that was, and like seeing happen in real time, was a couple hours before the reveal stream for Shadowkeep. There was a Kotaku report by Jason Schreier, wonderful journalist, the guy who breaks all the bloody Anthem reports, including the one that came out as of recording today. And that was that PlayStation 4 hadn't negotiated for cross save. So it was going to be cross save Steam, Xbox, Stadia, because that was announced, but not PlayStation. But then a few hours after that report, apparently the big wigs like Luke Smith, all those guys at Bungie,
Hmm.
apparently managed to strong arm Sony into accepting. And so literally like an hour or two before they do the reveal stream, they get it nailed down apparently. So then they could triumphantly say, we're doing like on the stream there was like, so we've got crossplay with Xbox, we got crossplay with PC, we got crossplay with Stadia. They pause for a second, and crossplay with PlayStation as well. Crowd goes wild, chat
Nice.
goes nuts. Because like that was the one people needed, because that was the full Monty. That was
Yep.
just the one they were missing, was Sony. And of course now it's Sony saying like, hey guys, our crossplay's out of beta, also known as we got our foot out of our ass, and now actually want to play nice. Now we're gonna see, hopefully, in terms of the ease of business too.
We'll see. We'll see how it plays out. I think that all of these cross-play experiences, or I guess endeavors, if you will, is something that it kind of sets a precedence for the next step in the evolution for that, and it really does speak volumes for a company to like Sony to jump in the realm with the other big fish, because they really don't they know that they have a platform that's very strong, and they know that if they jump in the waters, there's some things that they're concerned about. I don't know exactly know all of the things. I know I've read it before, but it's like at the end of the day, we're all players. We're all trying to do the same thing, and I get it. You want control over, you want security and all that good stuff, but it's a really big undertaking um, to see all that happening. So it's kind of setting a precedent for the future. So I can appreciate that a lot. And you using Destiny 2. I'm not a Destiny fan, by the way. I'm sorry. I don't like Destiny. I tried it. I did try Destiny 2. Just not a fan of Destiny. It's just I play Warframe. I'll play Warframe all day, but Destiny I'm not really into that.
Yes, I'll talk about the Warframe in a second, because
They got some cross stuff there too.
not yet.
Well,
And that's one of the big things is, sorry, go on.
they did what they did do was they did do cross save to a point. When they released it on Nintendo Switch, you were able to do a transfer of your
That was a
data.
temporary account clone.
That's
That's not true cross save.
I know, but it's still better than nothing, which is my point. So if you can do an account clone, which is yeah, it's not cross save per se, but you're still able to, which it is. I should probably explain it, because you're right, and I'm going to confuse people if I don't. Let me explain what that is. So for say a month, we'll say it was a month. You could clone your account at the time that you cloned it, and you could put it onto your Nintendo Switch. And then you had two separate copies of that account,
Yes.
but they were separate. So if you did a mission on one, you did not do that mission on the other. So therefore,
It's not like this.
yeah,
It's not like this. It's like this. They're two separate entities. They are not
exactly.
quantumly linked. They can go off and do. They're two separate accounts basically at that point.
Did you say Quantum Leap? Because that was a fucking
Quantumly
great TV
linked,
show.
like quantum entanglement.
Yeah.
Mass Effect.
I'm not a I'm sorry. I'm still stuck on my Quantum Leaf reference. I
God
love
damn
the
it.
show. Anyway, no, I got you. I'm with you 100%. So yeah, so there was that, and that's um okay, that was weird.
Yeah.
That you sorry, you
No, I'm sorry.
flat. I got distracted. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I saw the flashing, but don't worry. Yeah, I saw that too.
That
It
was
seems to be
weird.
fixed now. Yeah, it's like what the hell? Technology, please.
I thought it was
But yeah,
me.
like yeah. So as Norgoz was saying, the uh specifically account cloning was a thing, but Warframe players have wanted cross save for the longest time
Yes.
because the story comes up so much with Warframe players, me included. I started on one platform and jumped to another
Yep.
after a couple years. I started on Xbox because I didn't have a proper gaming PC at the time that could run Warframe properly.
Mm-hmm.
So I started on Xbox, played it when it came out on there, had a really good time, pumped like arguably way too much money in that game because I loved it to bits.
Oh yeah.
And then I got a proper beefy gaming PC and wanted to try out on PC because mouse and keyboard in a game like
Yes.
Warframe's really nice
Yes, it
and
is.
increased graphics and all that stuff, and the updates come faster. Although arguably you're also a beta tester, so the ability to have your stuff carry over would be really nice, but that's not an option. However, if they could get that in, that'd be fantastic. And a game like Warframe, which is primarily PvE cross-play,
Mm-hmm.
is much more viable. But in For Honor's case, there's some problems. It's been talked about a little bit here and there, but in For Honor's case, cross-save is something that could viably happen in this generation.
Oh, absolutely.
And something what be incredibly beneficial. The amount of people that have like stuff from like in the past, like an old beta, like emblems from like Xbox or whatever. I know Siege players have talked about like they've got old beta skins on Xbox or PlayStation they want to move over to the PC now that they've migrated to mouse and keyboard and that kind of thing. That cross save would be viable because you're not messing with anything too crazy. It's just making sure you've got all the privileges on there and make sure the business side of things is okay. Because of course your steel is mixed across platforms, and of course you could be buying steel from different places, and that's a
Right.
whole business headache, I imagine. But For Honor on this generation, as we all know, console is a little held back. Oh, I said little, a lot of held
Yeah.
back in terms of things it can do. 30 FPS lock, inbuilt motion input delay,
Mm-hmm.
plus anything your system has adding on top of it. Cross play in this generation, I don't think is that viable. I think if it's going to happen, it's going to be whatever the hell's going on next generation, if there is one For Honor. Like, they haven't said anything. We don't know anything. It's like at most next generation they do like For Honor next, like For Honor No Man's Sky edition, like No Man's Sky next, and then they make it 60 FPS, minimal input delay, and then match it up to PC. And I know some pro players have talked about they'd be willing to take the FPS hit from 144 and higher to
Mm-hmm.
60 FPS to get the increase in population, because that would fix a lot of matchmaking issues immediately, getting that increase in population.
You know, I'm torn on that part of the FPS. I'm genuinely torn on it. I completely understand where that thought process is, and I think dropping it to 60, and being, if that were to help bridge the gap, and I guess ultimately that would also we would also need to get 60 on console as well. That I don't think it would be the end all be all, but it has been shown that, and every time I bring this up, I always question myself before I say this, because I kind of there's two ways of saying it, and I'm afraid I'm gonna say it the wrong way. But ultimately, higher refresh rates effectively can have been shown to increase input delay. And I don't mean mechanically increase it. I mean, because the refresh rate is happening at a faster rate, you are effectively getting, you're seeing things in a, this is going to be terrible explanation. I'm explain it in a very basic sense, because I know someone's gonna probably like pick this apart. But ultimately, if you look it up, you look at the research. The higher your refresh rate, even if you're going beyond what your, um, I think even if you're going beyond what your monitor's capable of syncing, you ultimately see the images quicker, so you're able to react to them quicker. Now, it's not a huge amount, but it's still every little bit counts in FPS, in PvP games like For Honor, anything. It that does make a big difference. So dropping it down to 60, that does kind of marginalize or take away that potential advantage. And some people pay a lot of money for that type of equipment. I think that would be something that some people would be really upset and really reluctant to give away. I would be probably be one of them, but I don't think I think I'm kind of on the fence on this one because if you were to bring crossplay over and you were to make if you were to help bring the consoles to 60 FPS, but you drop the if you drop if you FPS lock PC at 60 FPS, I would definitely notice it. I think a lot of players that have played at that higher refresh rate would notice it. A lot of there would also be a huge majority that or a huge many people that also would not notice it because the eye can only show so many, right?
For me, I've only ever the highest refresh I've ever played on is 60. I've never
Mm,
played on a 144. So for me, it's like I wouldn't mind because the highest I've played is 60.
yeah. There's that. Yeah. So if you have not done anything beyond 60, it's probably not going to be a big deal for you, but once you get to like 120, 144, it's it's sweet. I mean, it is definitely buttery smooth, and typically you will notice a difference. There's some people that they just don't see it. They don't really notice a difference, and I don't know if that's I think that's just difference per person. But I immediately noticed the difference once I got to the higher refresh rate. Especially if you have like a G Sync or a FreeSync graphics card, and you sync all that up, because VSync will increase your input delay, but using the G Sync or the FreeSync technology to substantially decreases that a lot. You'll still get a little bit of
You
an
got to have
input
a
delay,
compatible monitor for it though.
right? You got to have the compatible monitor for it, right? You got to have the hardware plus the monitor. So there is that. But once you get that too, you get that the high refresh rate, you get the syncing technology. Oh, Verb. Oh my, it's so
It
good.
feels good, man.
It really does. It's a feels good man moment. It's a feels great man moment. It really is. I couldn't go back. I don't think I could go back. So now that I'm here. So but what you made a lot of good points. I think that for population and keeping in mind population is still very very high. If you compare this to we did this on a previous episode, like one of the first few episodes of season 1 of the Warcry. I pulled out the data and I broke it down for you guys and I showed you. I said even that was just a few months after Mortal Kombat had came out. For Honor was maintaining and going above Mortal Kombat eventually. And now, if you look at Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, Dragon Ball Fighters, and yeah, they're all traditional fighting games. This is not a traditional fighting game, but we still have a higher population by a long shot. So if you bring more people in from console, I mean that's going to add to that. But we're already at a higher population. I think our biggest issue when it comes to I think failing to recognize that sometimes is because we have an issue with matchmaking. And that's an entirely different topic for for a different day. But it's something that I think that's one of our issues right now. And if once that gets addressed again to the point to where matchmaking is 100% on point and we're not and some people aren't waiting as long or the people that are getting matches quick are not getting matched with people that, have renown or various reputation levels. Once we get that mix of the quality versus the speed of matchmaking, I think the question of population is going to be a lot less predominant in the community.
Yeah. One thing I will also mention is crossplay, specifically in terms of matchmaking, will help massively because For Honor's population is massively skewed towards PlayStation. Over half
Yeah.
is on PlayStation, and I know that from two sources. One, there was some independent testing done by some fans on one of the event quests that happened a while back. I think it might have been one of the holiday ones or something, like earlier in the year,
I'm gonna
and
pull
it was
mine
like
up.
shown to be like PlayStation numbers were like scaling way higher in executions or something.
I'm gonna
But
pull up
the
that
se-
video that I had and look it up and compare it.
yeah,
Please continue.
but the second place, and here's some hot information for you. So while I was in Montreal, the first time I was there doing
Uh
the
huh.
Jormungandr production,
Yeah.
in the Ubisoft cafeterias,
Oh, you
you could
pointed
just
this out.
chill. You could chill and eat some food on the televisions. Only the first time you were there,
Hmm.
we were there. It was gone on the second time that we were for the Sundar production. But the first time we were there, casually on the televisions in their cafeteria, they had the player numbers for every single one of their games in real time, just on there.
That's
Now,
awesome.
of course, NDAs are a thing, so I'm not going to say what exactly the numbers are, but I will corroborate with that independent testing from from people from the event quests that PlayStation like population is massively skewed, horrendously like skewed towards them. So if those gates were opened up and everyone can mix, especially the PlayStation population that comes in, that would give the developers way more breathing room to do matchmaking stuff. Like, the more people you have, the easier it is to do matchmaking. Because, of course, you can only, like, get around matchmaking so much when your sample size is not that big.
So I don't know what event this is that I'm commenting on, but it's okay. Type call to duel, reward 2,000 steel. The objective per platforms are as a community complete as many duel matches as you can PvP. PC 400,000, Xbox One 400,000. The hell was it? And PlayStation 4 is 560,000. So it's not as drastic a difference as what you were saying, but this is clearly a different event. But right there you can see like that's 160,000 more duels on PS4 as opposed to the other two platforms. So there's clearly a discrepancy. Like you said, like I mean, just you can just look at the events and you can tell that there's definitely a difference. I would love to see the numbers like you know what you were talking about. I would love to have seen those numbers, and I did bring it up at one point, and just so that I don't even have to like say in the air or anything, I didn't see them. I don't know what they
Yeah.
are.
Yeah,
So
Norgoz was unfortunately not there for
I
the
was
cafeteria data.
I
I
wish
was.
I did bring it up. Like I would love to see that data, and they're just like yeah. I bet you would. But
Yeah,
it
I
was
can corroborate the PlayStation population is the biggest by a good margin.
and that doesn't surprise me at all. PlayStation, from going back to the very first PlayStation, it's how almost always had some of the best. Actually, PlayStation 2, I think I was where I would start saying it had some of the best exclusives ever. I know the only time I ever bought a PlayStation though, was the original PlayStation I bought because of Wild Arms. It was an exclusive for PlayStation 1. It was an RPG. It was all over all the gaming magazines, and I'm like, I have to play this game. And it was incredible. No regrets at all whatsoever. But ever since then, I was on the PlayStation bandwagon. PlayStation everything. I didn't care so much about I didn't care so much about Dreamcast or any of that other stuff. Uh, unless my friends were on the consoles and they really like there was a game I really wanted to play with them, I didn't bother. I just did not bother. PlayStation was it for me. So that doesn't surprise me at all at all. I know that but kind of going back to what you'd mentioned earlier, like about with kind of I know somebody's gonna be listening to this like, we're supposed to be talking about For Honor. Why are you keep bringing up Warframe? I'm gonna bring up Warframe again, and it does all of these things do relate to crossplay and cross save, and that's why we're having the discussion about these are all examples of how it could work, or how it did work, or how it did function, or how it could function. These are all kind of not structures. What's the word I'm looking?
Entities.
Entities. These are all. We'll go with that. Well, they're all entities and examples of how this could transpire. So also started on I think console with Warfare. I would think it was PlayStation. Then it was PC, and then I did a little stint where I did a little contracting work for or not contract yeah contracting work. I did some contracting work for Microsoft, and I was as part of my position, it was good for me to have the actual console, so I knew what was going on and I could talk to it and everything. So I picked up an Xbox One, and I didn't do this 360, didn't care for it. Had the original, and then I started playing Warframe because I didn't have any games really for it at the time. I had then I eventually picked up Halo 5 and loved it. Uh, but I played Warframe because it was free to play, right? And fell in love with it. Eventually jumped to PC, and then the rest is history. I've got hundreds of hours in that game. It's fantastic. And I think that game is a perfect example of what crossplay, I'm sorry, where crossplay, actually, yeah, I guess both. cross-play and cross-save in an environment like that, for the most part, would probably be just fine. I mean, consoles are gonna have the aim assist, and that's not gonna be bad because it's PvE. PC is gonna have the mouse and keyboard, and you're gonna have your skill and your ability to aim better typically with a mouse and keyboard. I know some people just prefer the controller when it comes to FPS titles, unless it's I don't do that very often though. That's not me.
It
But break.
depends on the title. Like, I will rarely see a Halo player. Although that may
Ah, good
change with the
point.
introduction of the Master Chief Collection on like Windows 10 that's coming up soon.
Yeah,
Uh, but I've rarely seen like a Halo or a COD player prefer mouse and keyboard over uh controller. Although that may with COD that may change with Modern Warfare and having its crossplay, it being a thing. And yeah, that's actually another thing. Modern Warfare has pretty bloody robust crossplay too. And with in Warframe though, it being PvE would be a perfect breeding ground for that kind of thing, compared to For Honor, which cross save works perfectly fine.
oh,
A la
absolutely.
Destiny 2. Cross play, you're gonna have some problems.
You're gonna get some pushback from the community. Absolutely. There's gonna be pushback, there's gonna be concerns, and it just depends on if they can do it right. And I think that's really what it comes down to. The bottom line is, can Ubisoft do this the right way? And the right way is what we're what's kind of up for debate. You've stated that a large portion of the community states that well, is that would you say a large portion of the community would be okay with, you believe that they would be alright with going to 60 if we can bring console on board and also have
I've
them?
heard a lot of competitive players talk
Okay.
about being okay with going to 60 because the competitive players matchmaking is horrendous right now. So they just need more blood. However,
Mm.
the average PC player may not like that as much, having their stuff artificially capped. So then there lies the interesting problem, because at the same time, take a game like, for example, Fortnite or COD Modern Warfare, games where they have PvP crossplay. You know, you've got mobile phones in the case of Fortnite,
That's true.
console, PC, all of those running at least 60, because Fortnite, at the very minimum, its art style allows for that, and Unreal Engine 4 plus Epic equals insane optimization. So I
Mhm.
think it actually runs 60 on mobile. I haven't actually played it. And that, of course, allows for that. But I haven't heard that many complaints from people saying, "Oh, I got killed because that guy had a 144 hertz monitor."
Yeah, I
And
don't.
I'm not sure how that is going to be with COD, because that's minimum 60 on console because it's COD and it always has fantastic frame rates. But I need to wait and see what more community stuff is like with the crossplay system, because of course controller can compete with mouse and keyboard, and that was going to be my initial primary concern was, oh god, mouse and keyboard's gonna mop against controller.
Oh, yeah.
You rarely hear complaints of, oh, I got killed because that guy's got a 144 hertz monitor.
Mhm. Okay, I can see where you're coming from, and, that makes sense. And just so in case anybody's not in the loop, when you say COD, you do mean Call of Duty, correct?
Yeah, Call of Duty,
Okay.
specifically Modern Warfare, the one that just came out.
I haven't got a chance to play that one. I've heard mixed reviews. I've
Yeah,
heard
there's
very
mixed
mixed
stuff on it,
reviews.
but the game has full crossplay. So PC plays with console, like all of that, like mixes fine.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's interesting because I see for me, I see Battlefield. My only experience with Battlefield has only ever been. No, I take that back. I did play Battlefield 3 on PC. Battlefield 4, I played on console, and that was my first Battlefield experience. I played on console, played it with a controller. It was fun as hell. Uh, and then that was the first time I ever like opened comms and started talking to people on
Hmm.
console too. Was that I'm like, all right, we're squadding up. Like, all right, I'm on your six. Let's do this. Whatever. Doing the call outs and stuff. Man, that's a fun game. But there's different
Yeah.
mechanics between 3 and 4. So moving from one from console to PC plus having different like the bullet drop on 3 is different than 4.
The modes are different on Battlefield on console or PC. Like it's like I started on in terms of playing Battlefield. I started on Xbox 360 Battlefield 3.
Hmm.
Conquest in that only had a max of 4 to 5 cap points,
Oof.
maybe sometimes less.
Huh.
I think maybe like the most cap points I've ever seen on a console Battlefield was like 4, maybe 5 on Caspian border at most. Like A, B, like it was like A through to like maybe D at most, like Alpha Delta.
Mm.
But on PC, you're often going all the way to like hotel,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
H, like way more because you can support more players,
Right.
more play space. And I remember like watching Jack Frag's videos. Like, hang on a minute, he's capturing H or capturing Caspian border. Like, that's mine's different. What's going on with that? And then so you eventually had to look. It was like, oh, okay, so that's how that works. And so that's a bit more of an extreme example between the differences that eventually would get ironed out between the platforms, and that kind of thing would be unacceptable in a cross-play environment.
Do you believe then? So this is kind of throwing a wrench in the works, and this is a big what if. So you mentioned the difference between like console and PC when it comes to functionality and the things that are limited within console. And I think
Mm,
all things considered, I think that Ubisoft does a pretty good job of implementing some these large maps with these fantastically designed um, textures and visuals and effects. And I mean, the art team isn't. I mean, they're great, they're incredible. Like I had a chance to talk with a couple of them. One of the level designers. Um, they're I mean they're fantastic people, but there's the skills that they have. I've done some map design stuff, limited stuff. Back in the day when I was playing Quake 3 Arena, when I was like I don't know like 8 or something. Uh, I wasn't actually that young. It was like I was like 12 or 14 or some shit. But it was, I did a little bit of stuff back then. I could never get them to work, but that doesn't matter. It's semantics. But to getting all of these big maps with all these big textures and stuff to function on console in a way that doesn't completely destroy their ability to play. I think that's incredible. And with that, you talked about the difference between console and PC, where there's like a limited number of things on console. There's a bigger, broader amount of stuff on the PC. Um, do you think, though, and here's the wrench, full circle now, here's the wrench. Do you believe then, what if Ubisoft decided to implement a game mode that would inject more players into the same game space? Do you think that would have an impact on cross-play's viability because of consoles limitations?
I think that might be that kind of game mode wouldn't even reach the discussion of crossplay cross save because I don't even think For Honor was even designed with a concept of having more players than 4 per side.
I, I,
Like, I think I like even like I'll go into like the hypothetical of your question, but like For Honor, like I think there's a reason why we haven't seen like the Colosseum free for all mode. Like
mhm,
For Honor is very stringently tied into 4v4 attacker defender sort of scenarios. Like that, like in even duels, it's attacker defender. It's not person person.
mhm.
But in a cross-play scenario, adding more people, maybe I suppose it would be a nice side benefit, but I think they'd have to work on it on a more fundamental level before crossplay itself allowing for larger maps and that kind of thing. That would more just be more of an enabler than it being the reason for the maps existing.
Okay, so here's where I'm going with that. So this is the context in which my thought process at. So anybody listening and like you're not confused and trying to figure out where the hell my head's at. I believe that you're right that the fundamentals of the game engine would have to be adjusted. I don't think the game engine. I don't know all this for certain. I believe that the game engine. I think that at some point in time, the team has addressed having more than the 4-on-4, and I believe that they said something to the. If this was a long ass time ago, if I'm thinking correctly, that they said something to the effect about how the game engine's not designed to support more than 4-on-4. And I don't know if that came from the dev team or if that came from somebody that said like tested stuff, or if that came from somebody that was speculating. It's been so long ago, but that's something that's really stuck in my head. And so to this point, I believe that that's something that the engine may not support it with the way it's not necessarily designed, but I guess it wasn't designed to to function in the way that it is now, and to put out a PvP game like this on an engine that wasn't exactly set up for it. I think that there's going to be some restrictions on that, so I'll understand that.
Yeah, we don't want this to turn into a Frostbite EA situation
Yeah.
where literally the developers of Anthem are tearing their hair out
Oh
trying to
God.
get things to work in an engine that was designed for DICE for FPS
Yes.
games. It's like they had to work, I think, what was it in the Jason Schreier Kotaku article? Like 6 to 7 months just to get a third person camera working in Frostbite
It was a
or
long.
something like that.
It was a
It
very
was
long
something
time.
silly. So yeah, I think in terms of that specifically, Norgoz, there would need to be some fundamental changes. Like a For Honor 2 would be required before seeing something like that.
You know, maybe that's what we'll see. Where we'll see crossplay / cross save is For Honor 2. You never know. But I know the future looks. I just based on what's changed so far. I know the future looks good based on what we've seen this year, and they've talked about crossplay / cross. Well, they say crossplay is I think the verbiage they used. Um,
Yeah.
but so they talked about crossplay, and it would be very interesting to see how it turns out because you know Verb. I don't know if you've played a lot of Siege, but Siege is one of the really big heavy hitting games, and there was when Siege first came out. For anybody who doesn't play Siege, Siege is a fantastic game. I was a very big, uh, I wasn't an early adopter. I was not an early adopter, but I was very into it very early on. When I first saw some of the trailers, some of the reveals, some of the gameplay, and it was this house. I don't remember what map it is, but it was this house. It's I think in
House, literally house.
it's literally house.
It's the house map.
It's the house, and like the SWAT's like dropping the rope.
Fake comms.
Yeah, the fake
one dude
comms.
running outside the house and sniping people.
Yes.
Yeah, like
and then they're
if
like
only defenders could actually do runouts like that. Jesus Christ.
and then they're dropping down. They're breaching through the windows. They're breaching through the walls. They're doing all this stuff. I mean, it was such a cool looking experience. And when you actually go and you play the game, it's insanely fun. I don't know how that would work out I don't know, man. I'm interested to see how they're gonna bring what they're gonna do with crossplay. If they're gonna bring it to, if it is in fact gonna come to For Honor, because names have game names have not been said, but it said they did clearly state all of their PvP titles. So
Yeah.
that
That falls under the banner of all of them.
that
so you
falls
have to
under the
assume.
banner. So it's gonna be interesting to see how it implements. So I think so this discussion is hopefully gonna bring up some of the concerns that the community's had, some of the observations that we can kind of make, and I know that a lot of people have been wanting crossplay. That's still one of my biggest YouTube videos on my channel is people are still commenting on it today in the comments like we got to have crossplay. Somebody just a week or two ago was like, yeah, crossplay's got to happen, and I'm like, shit, people still watch it, and I'm just talking about it objectively. I'm surprised I'm not getting flamed in the comments section. Don't you do it, you assholes. Leave me alone. I'm trying to have you know what? That's one of my positive videos. Don't leave me alone. Stop it. Trolls, I hate you. I'm just kidding. You guys are fantastic. I appreciate you being here. This is a great opportunity to reintroduce myself, which is the host of the weekly Warcry. My name is Norgoz, and I'm joined by guest, my partner in crime here, one half of beard on, beard off, rather, Verbalosity, Shoutcaster
I am
extraordinaire.
indeed present. Yes. Hello. Greetings.
Hello, stay a while and listen.
Oh god, Decker Kane, let's not.
Stay a while and listen. The time that I had.
Has an ultimate in Heroes of the Storm that literally puts you to sleep by him telling you stories.
You see, the time that Andariel came to me, she said that crossplay was going to be available, and now it's not here, damn it.
You make a scary good Decker Kane, and I despise it.
Dude, I did a
Someone end me, preferably with a proper gank.
which is what we'll be talking about here. That's actually a perfect segue. That's a perfect segue. Before we wrap that up, is there any other things specifically that you would like to talk about in crossplay and cross save? I know we've kind of gone all over the spectrum, but in terms of For Honor, I think that it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. What are your final thoughts?
Final thoughts: cross save for Honor, absolutely doable within this generation. Literally just a business problem. Or
Hmm.
like unless there's some sort of like database muckery that I am not educated on. In theory, cross save is perfectly doable. You just select, in theory, you just select the account that you want to be the primary account, and that migrates out to the other platforms via Uplay. Dead easy. Crossplay, don't expect that until For Honor 2, if there is a For Honor 2, or if they do like For Honor Next, or whatever the hell they decide to do. Like I said, like fun facts, while we were in Ubisoft Montreal, I grilled every dev I possibly could find outside of Rahman because I couldn't get my hands on him. So like,
Yeah.
what's going on with For Honor 2? You guys haven't said anything. It's getting that time of the year where you guys talk about next year. Not a word from anyone. No one would say anything. So we've got no clue. We're in the dark.
We're in the dark, man. There you have it. We are in the dark. Verb asking the big thought questions to the team. We're in the dark, y'all. We are all in the same boat. We are all in the same raft, paddling our way to the next big reveal event. The question is, what is it going to be? Find out
It's usually
next
this
time.
time of year they announce, like, as well, like, side note, for those of you watching and not familiar, it's usually around this time of year, because last year, they announced Year of the Harbinger around this time,
Yeah.
early December-ish, so if it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen bloody soon.
Yes.
Like, now.
Maybe. We'll see. Oh, coming up on the 21st next week? Isn't that the one the slot they have in the roadmap that is maybe it's the 23rd.
I haven't checked the roadmap in a while.
The roadmap is empty on one of their sections. It's a special it's just a section. It's shoot. It's either the 21st or the 23rd. Let me see here. What is the 23rd?
It'll have to be a Thursday, because Warriors Dens are Thursdays.
It's the 21st. Yeah, it's the 21st. I just looked. Yeah, so the 21st there's there's something there on the roadmap, and it's just got the shadows of the heroes.
Hopefully it's that then.
We'll see what it is, because I don't know. So a lot of people are thinking armor. A lot of people are saying armor, but they've been saying armor for months now. And I know people are wanting armor, and the team addressed it a while ago. We're working on armor. It's coming eventually. Just so people would kind of like die down and be like, okay, it's coming, but it's still right. It's like it's almost as bad as people saying they didn't people having their commentary about stunning tab. It's almost that bad at this point. It's crazy. It's crazy. People really, really, really are desperate for new armor, apparently.
Yeah, it's been a long while since, I think the last time we had new armor was like Vortiger
Yeah.
release, maybe slightly before.
Yeah, it's somewhere around there. I think you're right.
Yeah, because I remember there was a stream, I think it was Vortica's stream, showing off like TND stuff. That was where Mr. Kyle got his signature headpiece from. So it was like, that was where I remember that. But yeah, it's been a bloody long time since we've had some armor, because we've had consistent weapons, but it's been suspicious, like, why haven't we had armor? So hopefully we get it there on Thursday. But yeah, we'll see.
I would love to see some really big announcements for next year coming up. But that said, I'm not expecting anything to be announced. And maybe it will happen next week, but I'm not expecting anything to be announced until closer to the end of the year. I'm actually not expecting anything to be announced until closer to the end of the year. So I'm not really thinking anything's going to happen until, well, shit, we're already halfway through November. Damn.
Yeah, it's November 16th.
Yeah.
Well,
So
16th for me, it's still the 15th for you.
yeah, it is. So
Time travel.
exactly, right? And you were talking about the Jedi Fallen Order thing. I completely forgot that it came out. Like, I'm really interested to see what that's all about. But my final thoughts on crossplay. So I tend to agree with you on cross save. I think that that's something that is probably the easiest thing to do, and I mean that. I know that there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes, like Verb said. There's business agreements. You have to get the approvals, the licensing, and everything from, Microsoft and Sony to intertwine that. I'd imagine in some way, shape, or form. So to make that happen, and it's going to be similar situation to where this is why patches are different. By the way, guys, when you patch PC, you don't have to go through other companies to say, "Hey, we're going to patch this game." That's why when they roll out patches. Every once in a while, you might not get one at the same day, or a patch may be delayed because if you want to roll them out at the same time, you got to make sure that the license and approvals are done
Gotta go through
for
certification.
certification. Thank you. That's the word I'm looking for. The certifications through the console companies. So that in this case, it's going to be Sony and Microsoft. So they have to give the approvals for any updates. So that's something to keep in mind. That is going to be a factor there. As far as crossplay, I know I've kind of been on the fence about it. I know I've kind of been very objective, and I try to stay away from giving my 2 cents and my direct thoughts on it. But I think what it comes down to is, yeah, I don't know I don't see how it would be. I would see more concerns than right now with the current state of the game, including PC, console, the differences, input delays, all those things. I don't see it being something that people would universally accept. I believe that there would be more concern and more pushback than there would be, embracing of crossplay, and there would be very valid concerns in regards to that. I think for both sides there would be points, but I think there's going to be more concerns as opposed to just saying, okay, we can just jump right into this and into the water, and we're going to be just fine. I think that it would be more. There would be a risk of drowning. There could be a risk of drowning. We'll just put it that way. So proper ganking is something that is extremely important to this game, just as much as the population would be, just as much as people being happy about what their heroes look like and whether or not they can play on multiple consoles or multiple platforms and have the same stuff. Ganking is an extremely important part of this game. Dominion 4v4 teams. When it comes to ganking, this is the discussion. The context for this topic, proper ganks, whether or not, or rather, how important is it? Just how important is it for victory, for the overall, not just for winning an actual fight, but for the entire match itself? Is it something that's make or break? Is it something that if you don't practice, you're just not going to win? We're talking casual, we're talking competitive, we're talking everything. It is something that I have my opinions about, and I know Verb has his thoughts about it because as a shoutcaster, he knows this man works so hard off camera. The experiences and the expertise that he has is insane. He studies his craft. And I'm going to give you an example of this before I release it over to you. Verbalosity had the opportunity before going back to Montreal, we had rehearsals. And then after rehearsals, we had the opportunity of just going and fleeing and doing whatever, or going back up to the gamer room, I'll call it, where you could see.
It was a playtesting area.
Playtesting area. See, this is where I should have gotten more sleep because now I'm feeling a little underdressed for the situation. I appreciate your professionalism, Verb. So
I'm wearing my pink pajamas.
He is. Excuse me, rather. You are.
This was the shirt I wore on the first stream.
Yep. I remember that. I remember you were asking about the mustard yellow or the pink, and I said, what? Do you remember?
Yes.
I said magenta. It's not magenta. It's magenta. That's a chivalry reference for anybody, any OGs out there. So. This man had we had the opportunity of just going and flocking and doing whatever, and Verb specifically said, no, I want to go back to the play testing area because that was offered. Like, do you want to go back up and test any stuff? He's like, I want to go up because I want to study the map so that I know more about the area so that I can, when we do the official live stream, I have the information. So instead of like going off and just doing whatever the hell we wanted to, just going off and being free, this man decided to work. And I appreciate that about you, man. I appreciate your work ethic. So, in regards to
I will say I appreciate the compliments, but there was a slightly more practical element to that, mainly because for those to break a little backstage lore, the way those like the visits work to Montreal is we get one day where the people playing in the show matches are introduced to the content that they're going to be playing early, so they're not going in completely blind. They get a couple matches, like 1 or 2 at most, to play Chilin Pass, and they can take turns playing the new hero and the balance of that patch that they're going to be playing on for the show. And since it's there's 8 stations, because it's a For Honor dev studio, so the devs testing is set up 4 computers. So what is one for each person. Norgoz's team was on one side of the room, and then there was setbacks on the other.
Yeah.
So it was a case of they were there. So me and Vivid was sat in the middle of the room, just kind of watching. We never actually got a chance to play, and it was probably we didn't get a proper chance to sort of like absorb the map. Vivid is a quick study, and he was hanging out with some of the people over their shoulder. So he
fought me a few times.
Yeah. He did. I remember that, actually. He did take over a station once or twice. Me, I mainly sat in the middle looking over people's shoulders, but mainly talking with the developers as they came in and out of the room. So I didn't have a massive element. So I did go back to the studio after the rehearsals to go quickly sort of study up. Not as like a extracurricular, like I'm super professional, more of a like, oh god, I barely know the layout of the map, and I'm supposed to be talking about it tomorrow. I should probably go look at it. So I managed to go back and look at Chilin Pass. But I appreciate you, at the very minimum, making me sound like I'm a lot more like super duper professional than you are. You do need info, but in that case, it was more out of necessity than anything.
Verb, don't get. I'm gonna give you. I'm gonna tell you what I am often told by various people, and that is, don't get in your own way. All right, I'm telling you that you're a professional, that you appreciate you respect your craft.
I got told that a lot, actually.
Why
I get in my own mail a lot.
That's why you do that, though, is because you respect your craft. You don't just jump into something willy-nilly and kind of just fly by the seat of your pants, which some people do from time to time. I'm raising my hand right now. Some people do from time to time. And in the live streaming world, you can kind of get away with that. But when you have some productions that are put together ahead of time, like podcasting or live stream events, like the big events like that, or tournaments and stuff like that, you kind of have to know. You kind of have to know to know what's going on. You got to know the players. You got to know the maps, or at least have to know the fundamentals of the game. And you went above and beyond by going back and saying, you know what, I could probably get away with winging this, but I'm going to take the time to go back and actually study this so that I can give proper information. And I imagine you might have got some information about potentials for like Zanhu's ganks and stuff like that as well. So rolling back into the gank conversation.
Yeah. I actually wanted to, because I had a whole thing saved up before we got on that massive tangent.
Yeah.
Proper Ganks. So you were talking about how important it is. It depends on where you're playing. At the very matchmaking end, if you're just casually chilling in matchmaking, it's convenient to know Proper Ganks. Because proper ganking allows you to, at the very minimum, make sure less revenge is popped and waste time. And at the very high end of matchmaking, that kind of thing, it allows you to get quicker kills because everyone's on point. At the base minimum, like, understanding of it, just understanding the concept of revenge tags expiring every 5 seconds of you not touching them. And then also the bush, the Ebby, the bush, the Hebby, or GB Hebby. Like, that can be a massive convenience. But then as you get higher up into competitive play, it goes from a nice convenience to mandatory. Because a good chunk of players at that point will start being good enough to where they can defend for long enough in a 2v1 or a 3v1. They can stall well enough, especially depending on their character. Like, if you're trying to assault, like, a Lawbringer or a Berserker or a Shaman on their home point with, like, a bunch of traps around them, good luck killing them before their teammates rotate in. Because if they're getting hit 1v3, they're calling for reinforcements immediately on the horn, and and you have to kill them before the teammates get there. It just has to happen. So proper ganks turn from a nice convenience to a mandatory requirement in that situation. And there's a couple ways of going around a high-end gank. You've probably seen the classic like videos of like Black Prior, super fancy like flip, long arm bash combinations, or like that kind of thing. It doesn't even need to get that complicated. It at the very basic level, just GB and then let your teammate do a heavy.
Right.
That's all you need to do. Not even getting into character, hero specific ganks. Just GB, heavy. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you need to worry about. And that will get you further than like 60% of the population already.
And I wanna clarify what you're saying for those of us listening, watching. When you say GB heavy, you don't specifically mean successful GB, do you?
Nope, it can be counted. All you need is that tiny little window just to be opened up, and the teammate can get a free hit in. That's the power of it. And that's often where some of the more character-specific ones in, because while your enemy is counter guard breaking out, they're still damage vulnerable, fully. It's not like a proper guard break and into throw where they have damage reduction. A counter guard break, you're still vulnerable. That's why you'll often see shamans and berserkers do a GB a guard break gank frequently, because that tiny window of the cousin going to be like, get off me, like counter guard break. During that time, the berserker just like starts spinning violently in a zone, or the shaman can get her stab in, the bleed faint stab, and that opens up all kinds of things. But the very core is just GB, which guarantees one heavy from your teammate if it's timed properly. That's all you need.
And you brought up you brought up the you brought up a few different ganks there. Like, so I wanna first say that I was gonna say something. That you brought up a lot of things. I'm gonna try and bring back to where I was at. I wrote down some notes here. So you talked about revenge gain. Revenge gain is something that's really important to be aware of. So we're talking about proper ganking, and proper ganking does in fact include whether or not you're going to hit somebody, whether or not you're going to guard break somebody, being aware of that time frame, like you said, about roughly about 5 seconds where it's going to be falling off. If you're not aware of that, like as a Yorm as an example, like as a Yorm main, if I'm not aware of that, if I'm just grabbing people, yeah,
Revenge.
it's
Revenge.
you're literally just giving them revenge pretty much. Now now after they have revenge, that spam that grab all you want to, because you might be able to stall them out if you can get it started. But beforehand, you want to be a little you want to try and be a little what's the word I'm looking for? Reserved.
Cautious.
Reserved, cautious. See, exactly. So you want to be careful about how you approach that. And that could go for a lot of different things. Stalling the points. I like how you bring that up, because like you said, and I don't think this is something that some people, depending on what level of play that you're at, you may not consider stalling when it comes to ganking, and how it relates. Because if you're a 1v2, 3, 4, whatever it is, at the as Verb said, at the highest levels of play, and not in some in some and depending on what level you're at, not even at the highest levels of play, there are players that are out there that can maintain for enough period of time for their teammates to get there. And that's what's all about. You've got, when you have ganks, you also have on the other, oh, God, I'm sorry, I'm tired. On the opposite side of the I'm always tired. On the opposite side of the spectrum, you have anti ganks. And if you have a player that you're trying to gank who's really good at 1vx situations, and you can't get them down before their teammate gets there, you've just lost the point capture. You've just lost that opportunity, because that next person that's coming in, if the first person's not dead, now you have two people to deal with. Or if that person is dead, your HP is probably taking a hit. You're probably, at least both you and your teammates, probably at half, and now you have a fresh new person that's on the point, ready to go. Maybe it's a lawbringer. And that's not what you want. That's saying it, Chief. So it's something that does have its place when it comes to proper ganking, because if you're not keeping that in mind, it can go against you.
And then also in regards to proper ganking, you talk about the time element. And it's not only time that your teammate gets there, it's time spent in the gank is time not farming anywhere else appropriately. Like a
Right.
Vanguard doesn't want to be helping in a gank on points because he doesn't gain as much of an advantage in terms of renown off that versus say
Mhm.
like a heavy class. He gets a bit more renown off that, or an assassin especially. Assassins want 1v1s because
Mhm.
their renown game is horrendous in basically any situation that isn't a 1v1. uh Vanguards get a bit more XP for capturing
Capturing.
points, for being outnumbered, but they primarily want to sit in the minions and farm. That's one of the best places to get experience. And like a Vanguard doesn't want to be tied up for too long in a gank. Heavies, for example, they can like it a little bit more because they get bonuses for helping teammates out in ganks, assisting, sitting on points gives them more renown than others, that kind of thing. But it's primarily the assassins because at least right now in the game, two of the top gankers are assassins. No, three actually. Three of the top ones are assassins. Well, actually, no. Technically, two hybrids, two assassins. You've got Shaolin, who's a
Mhm.
hybrid. He's an extremely good ganker with the because you can do a guard break, and while they're counter guard breaking, you can do bap 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 the triple lights.
Right.
But you do them slow enough. It's just like bap bap bap. It's a little faster than that. That while they're bopping, the initial person who was guard breaking could actually get a heavy in while the lights are happening. The Berserker
Uh-huh. I
can
was
do
gonna
his
bring that up.
zone. Berserker can do his zone attack. That opens up for a heavy from the from the guard breaking teammate. Shaman, of course, has the bleed stab. And then, of course, the creme de la creme ganker right now, Lawbringer. He's a
Yes.
hybrid, so he gets balanced experience across the board, but you still want quick ganks so you can keep the renown coming in quickly so you don't get tied down. You ever notice Norgoz during like matchmaking games where it seems like it's not really a game of For Honor, it's a giant bar brawl. You're really like behind on your feet because everyone's just fighting. No one's actually farming or getting kills. Everyone's just stuck in the bar brawl, not
Mhm.
earning anything. It's a
Yeah.
similar concept.
Yeah, I see that happen a lot, and a lot more than I would kind of care to even admit. I guess you could say. It's you'll have games and people just kind of get stuck in the tunnel. You kind of get tunnel vision, and they're just focused on the one thing. They see what's in front of them. They're not looking at the big picture, and that's where you see teams start to fall behind in these Dominion matches when you're not looking at the big picture. If you're stuck, like you said, like if you're still stuck on fighting one guy, or if you're stuck stalling on a point and you're the one who's trying to gain that point and you've been on that for a minute or two, on the one of the clips I did with uh trying to do my amateur shoutcasting deal, that was something that happened in the end of one of those matches where uh they were stalling the point for over a minute on Overwatch. It was C point, the dreaded C point. They were stalling it out for over a minute, and the enemy team had like 980 or 985 or something points. They needed that as soon as they captured C. They were pretty much going to go right over, or they had C rather, but they weren't gaining points rather. So they weren't gaining any points because the C was being stalled out. They just needed a little bit. But what had happened eventually, that team was stalled that point out, prevented them from getting from getting that point gain, because that's the only point they actually had. Once they eventually did take that point from them, it completely shifted. The momentum shifted in the other team's favor. You had the blue team at 980, and now the defenders at like 980. Attackers capture that, they shoot up. Now the defenders are breaking, and it's a momentum shift. And like, holy shit, what just happened here? It was an insane moment to see. And that was just, casual matchmaking that I was shoutcasting. It wasn't even something that was at a competitive level. So that's where, and we're going to talk about spectator mode later, by the way, guys. And very, very soon, we're going to be talking about spectator mode. So stay tuned for that. That is definitely part of our discussions, and shoutcasting as well. I don't think I went through the entire list. I don't think I did. I'm a terrible host. So yeah, so crossplay, proper ganks, spec mode, shoutcasting. That is our list. You can see it at the bottom. If you're listening to it now, you've heard it. But yeah, so that's it's extremely important to know when it's time to get out too, because like you were saying, you don't want to tie up a Vanguard who's going to get bonuses off of capturing points when you're not getting one. If you've been dicking around with it, it's just not happening. Depending on what the situation is, of course, it may be time to just disengage and go somewhere else. If it's just
Biggest example of that is Sanctuary Bridge. That's such an important skill on Sanctuary Bridge because that map is basically one giant rolling gank,
Mhm.
just fights on mid all day. You've got to know when, okay, this fight is not going well for me. I'm going back home.
Yes.
I'm gonna go cry for a bit while I heal. And that is one of the most important skills, is knowing when to fold. Because if you stay in a fight for too long and die, that respawn could start a really bad snowball potentially. If you get back capped or something, like getting out of there, very good point, Norgoz.
Verb, I appreciate you, man. the So with that, there's one other thing you talked about, the counter GB and the stuns. And you pretty much already brought up what I was going to bring up. That was the Zerk. Zerk has got one of the strongest stunning attacks, if you will, in the game right now. The zone. Like, I've used that gank a lot myself in like 2v2 brawls. It works fantastically, and it's going to be the same difference in like a Dominion situation. Any type of 2v1, you get the zone in, and you can easily turn that into like a heavy or a punch into, depending on, if you're setting it up right, you can get a good heavy off of it. It's gonna be pretty nice. Like, the way I used it before was we would do zone into Tiandi punch into, um shit, was it my top heavy? Hell, it might have been my top heavy or side heavy. I don't remember now. But it was
That
definitely.
could have
No,
worked,
no,
but
no, I'm
that would
sorry.
have fed a lot of revenge.
Let me back that up. It wasn't that. It was the Tiandi palm strike into my zone, into his top heavy. That's what it was. It was, he would do the palm
Oh,
strike.
because he chains the top heavy off the palm strike. Okay,
Yes.
I see what you mean now. Right.
Yeah. So I would get my damage from my zone, and he would get his damage from his top heavy, and we didn't really lose anything. It was a pretty spicy, saucy little gank, but it's a very odd combo to have in twos.
Depending on that, could work as long as you have the revenge tags off the
Right.
enemy when you start the palm strike. That could work nicely.
Yeah, I think in the instance, I'm thinking of tournament play. We
Mm.
were using it in, it was Salty's casual tournament. It was, is what I used it in.
Ah.
Myself and Private Armadillo. We actually practiced a little bit. We got that gank down, and we stuck with it. So whenever we had a 2v1 situation, we're pretty much guaranteed to win, unless it was, I think that was actually before Prior came out. Yeah, it was 2018, I think, right? Yeah, it's been like a year ago.
Oh
So
god, it's been a year since
I
Black
know.
Friday came out. What the fuck?
Well, I mean, well, yeah, it's been almost, but it's been like a year or so since Salty's tournament. I think it was like in somewhere
I
around
don't
August.
like this whole passage of time thing, Norgoz.
I
I'm not a
know.
fan.
I'm sorry, Verb. I'm sorry, man. I know. It's crazy, right? But no, it's knowing all of these ganks is going to be the difference between victory and defeat. And I know that for some people that's going to be like, well, yeah, yeah, you know what, that's correct. But it's definitely more than that. It's ganks are very important for. It's not just victory or defeat. It's a huge. The reason the Verb and I are kind of going off on a few things here and a few things there is because ganks change almost everything. Ganks can change a match, not just a fight. They can turn a match around. We've talked about stalling. If you're stalling a point and you can't gank properly, and you lose that, and you can't gain that point back from the other team, that could be the difference between you being able to get out of breaking or to put them in breaking, depending on where the points are at. And it could be a momentum shift. There's a lot of things that go into that. So that's why I wanted that, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to bring up Proper Ganks. As an example, I want to give an example of what I see as a proper gank, and this is a very popular one. I want to hear what you think, Verb, as far as like one of your favorite ganks, if you will, I guess. And this is probably one of mine. I want to say Raider. I really want to say Raider, but I'm not going to say Raider. I'm going to say Lawbringer, because I mean everybody knows Lawbringer. Everybody's kind of familiar with Lawbringer, but it's also one that people screw up a lot. So you get like a parry. You'll do the stab, the run to the wall, and then you'll long arm, flip them, ground, everybody heavies.
Yeah, that's an oldie but a goldie.
And oldie but goodie. Yeah, oldie but a goldie. I like that. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty much. I don't think that that's really changed much over time either. It's pretty much always
Yeah,
been
that
pretty much
one
the same.
pretty much became institutionalized ever since the Lawbringer rework. Like,
Yeah.
insert any amount of pain off of long arm wall splat, especially Raider. If he can follow it with a chain zone, even after like post nerf chain zone still hurts. Like that's and any teammates nearby as well, like you said. Like, oof.
It's pretty much a GG at that point. It's pretty much a GG if you have like a Raider or a Highlander. I mean, you're gonna take a shit ton of damage. It's gonna be disgusting.
Yeah.
What's one of your? That's kind of one of my favorite ones. But I also kind of I personally, if I'm not the Lawbringer, I tend to screw it up too.
I'm gonna cheat and say 2. If you were gonna mention what's my favorite gang, I'm gonna cheat and say 2.
Okay.
There's a classic, the classic one, which has been a thing since like late season 3, season 4, when Shaman initially came out. It's the like any kind of Shaman hit stun gank, which is basically teammate counter guard breaks, or gets counter guard teammate guard breaks, gets counter guard broken. While the counter guard break's happening, Shaman does the Raven's Beak, which is the bleed. While the person's in hit stun from getting stabbed, teammate does a heavy because they've been freed out of the counter guard break. Hits, miss, or parry doesn't matter. The enemy's stuck in jail because they're going to get hit by it unless they get somehow magically freed. They're going to be stuck in jail, which meanwhile, while the heavy's being thrown, your Shaman backdashes into bite, which is guaranteed. Off of the either hit stun, block stun, parry, stun. Well, parry animation at that point. And then while the bite's happening, your teammate can follow it with whatever his most damaging move is. So that's 50 damage plus the bleed from the Raven's Beak.
Oh, goodness.
Plus whatever the hell your teammate can conjure up.
You're easily looking at 80 plus.
Yeah, and that is incredibly simple. But one that I've seen recently, I saw it on Clutchmeister's stream when he was doing a drunk stream of the recent Twitch drop ones, when him and UDDA were slowly losing their minds to alcohol. One that I saw perfected was one with Centurion and Jormungandr, which was absolutely disgusting.
Oh yes.
You do any kind of heavy. Oh no, you do what is it? No, it's Centurion does a normal heavy, puts the enemy in stun. While that happens, the Jormungandr does their neutral bash. I forget the name of it.
The neutral something. Bash. I don't remember. I know what you're talking about though.
Yeah, it's Jotun something.
Yeah, they're all Jotun something.
While that's happening, the Centurion's winding up his punch off the heavy. That's guaranteed because of the stun off of the bash. Then they go down. Centurion goes in first because the pin. Then the Yorm goes in, so it's 50 plus. How much is Eagle's Talon?
35.
35?
Yep.
35. So that's 65. But then because I think the since the Jormungandr's going, so it's like 50,
85,
60, 70, 85. So it's 85, but then it gets worse. Because the Jormungandr goes second, Jormungandr's Hammer Slam has the same property as Berserker's Bear Rush, the forward dash heavy. If his body or her body collides with a teammate, it knocks them off course. So you cancel the Centurion's recovery off the Eagle's Talon because they get they get knocked off course, and they get to go again. So they get another 35 damage. So it's a total of 35 plus 35 is 70. So it's 70 plus 80, 110 damage.
It's insane. I don't think I've ever done that gank with a second Eagle Talon, but I definitely, as soon as you said, I completely forgot. Centurion and Yorm right now is actually, if I were to say my current favorite, that is actually probably going to be my favorite.
It feeds so much revenge, but it's hilarious.
God, it's so
it's
fun.
Completely stupid.
It really is. And the time in which you are stun locked because of the Yorm's Hammer Slam is such an insane amount. That's why you get that extra. I mean, you cancel the recoveries too, but you have that. If you have somebody else that's there waiting, you could probably get an extra attack in there too. There's so much time in which you're you're stunned. But I think when you tag them with Eagle's Talon, I think it actually that's gonna help
Yeah,
them get
Eagle's
up.
Talon has the longest stun. It's where you do it first. So the full
Right.
combination would go heavy from Centurion,
Hmm.
bash from Yorm to lock him in place, then punch, Eagle's Talon, hammer slam, Eagle's Talon.
Mm. Oh my God.
That's the
Oh,
full
just thinking about
sequence.
okay, when Centurion gets reworked, I can tell you this. Myself and Careless Rex, whenever we play together, and he'll usually mention it first. He'll be like, "So, Scent Yorm gang?" I'm like, "Fuck yes. Yes now. Let's do this. Do it. Do it." And he'll play Scent, I'll play Yorm, and just guys help anybody who gets in our way, man. Just it's the damnedest thing. Even with Centurion not in full form, pre-rework. At the time of recording, guys, this is pre-rework Centurion we're talking about. We've
Yeah,
saw
Ubi went back to the drawing board on it, they've said, so don't
yeah,
expect the rework for a while, I think.
it's something that definitely needed to be looked at a little bit more. It was a lot of stuff that's getting put into Centurion, so I'm really glad that they're taking their time with it because I know myself and I'm sure I speak for a lot of people. Not everybody. Stop it. Chill out. I'm sure I speak for a lot of people when I say we really want that to be solid. We don't want that to be too much or too little. We want it to be as close to right as we can get it. Um, but I think that I don't think a lot of people would be too no, yeah, they would. I was gonna say I don't think a lot of people would be too upset if they became overpowered, but I forgot how many players actually still have problems dealing with Centurion as he stands right now.
Yeah, it's like I remember the amount of people that were comparing, somewhat rightly, but comparing the testing grounds Centurion rework to basically just Roman Hitakiri,
Yeah.
because it
It's
kind of played like that. And I had some IRL friends who are not in the loop with For Honor who were kind of getting impressions of Centurion being a feint spammer.
well, he kind of
So
is a
it's,
faint spammer now, so
I mean, yeah, with like the punches and like, yeah,
ah,
they're gonna get flack one way or the other. They just gotta make it as healthy as possible. So yeah, don't expect that rework for a while.
yeah.
It's gonna be a good bit.
It's something that I think that like I think what you put the nail in the head is that you hit the nail in the head there with a healthy, we want it to be healthy. So I'm with you 100% there. But I tell you, I had a lot of fun with Centurion in the testing grounds. I did think that there was a couple things that were overtuned a little bit. I liked the whole feint on the punch, the feint and charge up option, but I did also compare it to Hitokiri. I said this is very close to what Hitokiri has as well, so it's very similar. The Eagle's Talon being 45, being the buff to 45, I think it was a little much, not by a ton. I think the 38 to 42 is kind of the range that I would be thinking of if they were going to increase it. I'd say 38 to 42 is it's not terrible. It's not too much as long as it's everything else is balanced out. But Yorm goes to get the 50, but he also is typically requiring to get the out of stamina to actually get the 50. So he doesn't really have a huge amount of damage on his regular attacks either. So he's got to have something. He's got to have some kind of risk versus reward kind of deal there at the end. But no, the Centurion and Yorm gank, fun. It's one of the funnest fucking ganks I've ever done, and I have seen ganks. I've been part of ganks. The more I said that sentence
It
sounded
is
so
the
silly.
ganking version of Unga Bunga. It is just dumb revenge feeding out the backside
Yeah.
fun. Just Unga Bunga smash the person. Just
It's so fun, man.
great.
It really is. God,
So fun.
I fucking love Yorm. I really do. Yorm, yes, guys, I'm a Yorm main, and I'm not ashamed to say it. It's like if I'm an Alcoholics Anonymous, I'm Yorm Anonymous. Loud,
Ah, Yorm.
Yorm. Ah, you bring your hammer to the dinner table because you're always ready to bring the gavel down. You would make a great judge.
Mildly larger than the gavel, but I suppose it could work.
It could work. It could work. It could totally work.
Break the table, but it would work.
Exactly. Guilty. Sorry.
I'm sorry, was that a rat?
That was a.
What noise?
I
Was that a
don't.
Yorm impression? I
was-
mean,
that
I was trying to figure out if
kinda.
that was a wild animal or a Yorm.
That was kind of a that was kind of a Yorm impression, but yes, he's is kind of like a wild animal. So I guess that I just had some, I don't know, maybe I had some crazy, some
Yeah.
honey badger in me
Unfortunately,
there
you
for a
don't.
moment.
You'd have to kick yourself in the nads to actually hit the correct octave to do Yorm impression properly.
Hang on a second, Verb. I'm gonna creep you the fuck out right
Oh.
now. All of you guys that are watching and listening to this right now,
Oh God.
I'm not apologizing for this. Verbalosity, I don't think I've ever done this in your presence before, but I just wanna, okay, so Verb,
What's happening? Am I gonna need to eject? What's going on here?
hang on, okay. Verbalosity, I just wanted you to know that
Heretic. Nope.
I'm gonna
just
hold my
wait
hands
about
up
30
here
seconds
so
until you calm
everybody
down.
knows I'm not doing a voice changer. I'm really not doing a voice
I
change.
can still hear you from a headset. God damn it.
Oh.
All right, let's hope he's finished. Hello.
I can't breathe. I
Headset
can't
back
breathe.
on. Okay, good. If you die,
Oh.
you can't make those horrendous noises.
Oh my gosh! All
I
right,
never want to hear that noise again
I'm
coming
so-
from you.
Verb. I love you.
I'm currently not so infatuated with you
I'm
after hearing that noise.
I'm sorry. You didn't even hear my little giggle snort that I did either. That's
I'm
the best
thankful I
part.
didn't.
That's the best part. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so
Cleansing the memory of that heretical horse shit. Let's move on to spectator mode.
I'm not done yet.
Oh, okay. So
I'm
you
not
actually said
done
to say. Okay.
Wait. Just when I go back in analytics and I look to see where people stop viewing, it's gonna be like right here.
It's gonna be here.
It's gonna be here. Like, what? Okay. So this is a good opportunity to remind you to reintroduce ourselves. I'm your host Norgoz of the Weekly Warcry podcast, where we have meaningful discussions regarding community-driven topics. We like to have fun here, and from time to time, we have a lot of fun. I'm joined today with my special guest, Verbalosity, Shoutcaster extraordinaire, and a lot of people don't know this about you. And of course, you guys are listening to the Weekly Warcry podcast right here. It's normally live Friday on my channel. This one's pre-recorded due to networking problems, but we'll be back live as soon as we can. Verb, not a lot of people tend to know this about you, that you have a history beyond For Honor in the esports scene, don't you?
Yes. So I've been doing this for about 4 to 5 years now, like sort of between amateur and pro and like semi-pro am where I am right now. I'm not like a full-blooded commentator like going around the world kind of thing, but I've gotten to the point where I can cover me bills. Like I'm feeling pretty good. And my initial history, like I've had a couple weird ones, but my primary games like from the start was Smite. That was my primary one. I did that for a solid like 3 years straight.
It's a long
That
time.
was my game. Then after I fell off in love from that due to a long and broad story that I'm not going to bother going into here simply because it's too long.
Okay.
Then I did a little bit of Overwatch stuff because that was when Overwatch just came out and I was really into it. So I casted some Overwatch stuff. That was a weird time for me because I did a lot of stuff, like independent stuff, but it was also a lot of weird spot gigs. Like I did a remote commentary gig for a little LAN cafe in Texas called Java Gaming Cafe. I got roped in by a friend to help out there because they were doing a LAN and they wanted commentators, but they couldn't get anyone on site. So the setup was us commentating like games remotely via Overwatch's spectator system, but the games were being done on LAN, and our voices were being broadcasted into the LAN center on projectors, and it was kind of surreal seeing videos of that because that was the first time I had like seen my work being shown to a live audience, which was fun. And then like the other oddity with Overwatch for me was I randomly managed to get from the same person who helped me out, funnily enough, on the Java Gaming Cafe in like Texas gig was there's a baseballer by the name of Trevor May who was doing Overwatch tournaments at the time, like back in like 2017,
Hmm.
2016. I think it was 2017,
Okay.
and and he was doing Overwatch tournaments and was looking for production guys. So I got roped in to help out Trevor May,
Dude, that's awesome.
and that was a weird thing because I had no idea who he was at the time. It was just some sort of baseballer who was on Twitch. And although I knew he was definitely some sort of big deal because the pay for it was good already, like at the time it was like a solid like $300. But then the tournament ran so long into it was like eventually like a 12, 13 hour, 14-hour broadcast at the end that he just gave us like double overtime pay
Wow.
on top of that. So I knew like, okay, this guy's got to be some money. So I looked him up. I was like, oh, he plays for Minnesota. He's an actual like top end baseballer. Alrighty then.
That's
That was one of my weird oddities with that. But then I found For Honor and started settling down into a normal groove and sort of going along. And
Mhm.
now I'm here. It's a lot more complicated than that, but that's the long and short of it, basically.
So if somebody wanted to hire your services, where can we contact you at?
My it's basic just anywhere on like Twitter. My contact email's on there. Basically, you just find my Twitter at Verbalosity. Fortunately, Verbalosity is not exactly a common name, so
Mhm.
the only place where my name is different is on YouTube. Technically, where it's like my official channel like name at the top is like the underscore Verbalosity or something because someone sat on it. But
Mm.
everywhere else, fortunately, like my name's pretty unique. What about actually? Side note, you Norgoz.
Mhm.
Is there any places where you've had to have variations for Norgoz? Out of
Yes.
curiosity,
Yes.
you
There
have.
are there's Twitch is pretty much the only one, and it's NORG0Z as opposed to the proper spelling, which is just NORGOZ. I have
Yeah.
had that on pretty much all platforms. I've had it on Facebook. I've had it on. At one point, I had it on. No, I did not. I had it on Facebook. I had it on. Yeah, I have it on YouTube. I have it on Twitter, and pretty much any other social media thing you can think of. I've probably got it on. The one place I don't have it or I didn't have it was MySpace back in the day because somebody else had like merged their names together in some weird way and somehow they got Norgoz from their name. So I won't say who that is because that,
Norman, like it would be like Norman something probably.
yeah, something like that. Well, I know what their name is. I'm just not going to display it. So you can go look at their MySpace page. It's probably still up. And I'll leave that alone. But so I like looked at it. I'm like, I could maybe see how, but like that's a really weird, like the way they put it together is like, huh? It's like you got the first few letters of this, then you got one letter from here, two letters from there. It's kind of all over the place. So anyway, so those are the two places I've had to deal with. So I can so Verbalosity, I can relate to that. It is frustrating when that happens because you want your brand to be consistent across all platforms as much as you possibly can have it for ease of access, for not confusing people. Because on Twitch, there's a guy that has Norgoz, like I said, and like I was saying, like that's why I had to do the variation. Somebody is still sitting on that name, and they don't. I don't. As far as I know, they don't log in. They certainly don't stream. It's been an inactive account for years, but unless I get a contact at Twitch that will actually look into this as an issue, it definitely has gone beyond their policies of inactivity. But also within their policies of inactivity, and it's changed now. But before it was any type of views would count as activity, so if somebody goes to their page, it counts as activity on their page. So
Resets the timer.
it resets the clock. So I can't even click on their page. Now you can search for Norgoz, and sometimes that name won't come up, but you can clearly go to twitch.tv/NORGOZ. And it's just this pre-generated face, cartoon face, and there's still it's like platinum jungler something playing League of Legends, and I'm like, and there's no history on it or ever. And this has been like that. They had their account, I think, not even a month or two before I had mine in 2014. They had theirs like a month or two before I had mine. I'm the only Norgoz in the world. I maintain that. I first had my name in like 2000, I don't know, 2. It was the third day of EverQuest 2. That's when I first put Norgoz in. And to my knowledge, there's never ever been another Norgoz. There was certainly no other Norgoz on any other server in the world on EverQuest 2. I was the only one, and everybody knew me. I was all over the tanking channels and everything. People knew my name. I was offered a lot of money as a side note. This is a tangent for my EverQuest 2 account because I was a high end raider, and I was I would for my server for one of the servers that I was on. I was known as I was the top zerker, and I was known on the forums as somebody who knew what the hell they were talking about. I could parse high, I could do damage, I could tank, I could do everything you needed to do. And I was offered a large sum of money, and I'm like, that's enough to pay rent for, for a few months, but this is my life though. I've spent so many years. Why would I sell that? For me, it was worth more to me to keep the account than it was to sell it, and I still have the account to this day. So that's a side note of that. But that was the origin. Still have the account, but everywhere else there's a couple variations. Yeah. So I understand where you're coming from with that, man. It is as Setback would say, it's a setback.
The old namesake.
Yes. So I feel your pain there. I could have gone the Norgoz or something like that, just like you went with the Verbalosity. And I'm like, I don't know. I just want it to be Norgoz. So I was like, well,
Yeah.
what makes the most sense? I just put a 0, I guess, in there somewhere. I don't know. That was
It's a classic. You elite speak it. It works.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So-
Fortunately, people want to contact me, they just either go to my Twitter and my contact emails there, or just go to my DMs. Either or, one of them do.
There you go. Yeah, and like Google, I got Norgoz on Gmail too. So there's that.
Hey.
There you go. Exactly. That was the really important one. So anyway, so you've done a lot of stuff in the esports world, and you've kind of settled in For Honor, and we're so glad to have you here. We're so grateful to have you as a Shoutcaster. I don't give a damn what. I was gonna pull some name out of the hat, but I don't want to piss somebody off. Fuck it. I don't care what Boogie says about you. You're a great fucking caster. I love you like Boogie.
He's been nice to me though.
Boogie, he is. He's a genuinely good dude. I love that fucking guy, and I enjoy his shoutcasting as well. He's a very interesting character.
Boogie shoutcasts well if he's angry or something annoying has happened.
Yes.
Boogie is like the Incredible Hulk of commentary. He gets exponentially better the more miffed he is.
Yes.
Like, if you want a good show, someone needs to deliberately sabotage his brackets.
Don't do that.
And then you get a good show.
No, you get a great show. It's already a good show. You get a great show. You get an even greater show. That's the kind of show.
Like good in italics.
Yes.
Like good shit.
Good. Real good. So speaking of, Boogie was one of the tournament hosts for organizers for one of the first tournaments that had Spectator Mode that was showcased.
The Spectator showcases, yeah, the steel tournaments.
Yes, the steel tournaments, and I love that they did that. I would love to see a partnership program where For Honor, where the dev team would provide some steel or something to some creators. Some creators had a way of giving steel to people. I know that there's some complications with that because I know that when it comes to that, there's monetization. I mean, it's clearly in a way it's.
Oh, age. Let's not go into the age thing.
Oh, I wasn't going to. I wasn't going to go into that because that should not be a factor when it comes to this form of promotion and partnerships. If you give steel to a creator and they decide to give it away and however they see fit, at that point it should not by any means have any link to Ubisoft other than the fact that that person has steel, because they don't even have to give steel to that person. We just need the ability to give steel to other people. That's all. That's the. But and then
gifting steel.
Exact, gifting steel. We need to have that. And I know that, like I said, like I started with saying, I know that there's some like one-off situations that could be concerning, like if there's any steel that you start off with or something, with a new account, and you could like farm it and then give it to yourself or whatever. There would have to be ways of preventing that. Those start like with what Warframe does.
Way, I will say the way those tournaments worked in terms of the steel prizes was at the end of them, the winners gave their emails to the tournament organizer, and then the emails associated with their Uplay accounts, and then they got directly gifted the steel.
Right.
It's not like they were given like a code or something. So to set up like a logistical network for like that, they would probably just have to keep using that system of you report. That's how community tournaments work in Smite as well. is you just report the winners' emails or their usernames to the community like tournament director for Smite or for like Paladins or whatever the game is that whatever high res game you're doing, and then they get the gems there. A same thing would probably happen. Like I'd imagine like report it to Mistress because she's the main tournament or like person there at Ubisoft. So you just like report there. That's probably the most efficient system.
Mhm.
And that's aside from like a steel gifting, which probably should still be in the game. That's actually a good point,
Yeah.
Norgoz, about being able to like buy someone steel. Like, oh hey, just gift someone like like $10 of steel or something. Like that'd be a nice touch.
And I see it as it's slightly. I know we're kind of going off a little bit. This is something I think it's pertinent enough to bring up while we have it as a topic. The
Yeah.
In comparison to Warframe, here's how I think it would work. Warframe does this where you start off with your in-game paid currency. That in-game paid currency cannot be traded to other players ever. Ever. So unless you buy other currency, you cannot
You're talking
trade.
about Warframe here, right?
Yes. Yes. So any currency that's given to you for free or during promotions, like Discord has a promotion every once in a while where you get the in-game currency
Yeah.
from that. And I thought I could use that to trade for something. So I get into the
It's
trade
trade locked.
and
Yeah.
it's trade locked, so you can't give it away. That could be the same. That could be the solution for that with For Honor Steel system, so that if it's our steel gifting system, if we got to that, that is something that if you got a new account, you can get roughly 3,000 steel really quickly for doing some of the tutorials and stuff. If you just lock that, then yeah,
Or maybe instead of doing it directly from your like steel amount, you just give the ability to buy the packs, but then specify the giftee. It's like how
yes,
gifting in funny enough Smite works. That's how you gift someone gems in Smite.
there
You
you go.
just buy a pack normally, but then specify it's a gift. Kind of like buying a gift on Steam. You just specify it to that username and it goes to them instead. And it's like, hey, you got a gift from X person.
Yeah, because in general you can't do that through Uplay, can you?
I'm not.
Like in
What?
general, you can't
Okay,
gift
now I'm
anything
going on
to.
an investigation. I'm going to see if you can actually gift. Like, I'm pulling up my Uplay now since I'm on my PC. So
Yeah.
yeah, now you've got me curious. Can
I don't
you
think you
gift
can. I
things
think
on
I've looked for it
Uplay?
before, and I don't think that you can do that. I remember I did a giveaway of a gold edition of For Honor when the game first came out, and I had to actually give them money through PayPal so that they could actually purchase it.
Oh, the old school method, yeah.
So I had to do that. It worked out, but it was, I know I don't know if you can. Yeah, I don't think you can do it through Steam
Yeah,
either.
I'm not seeing any gifting functions like there's
Don't believe
shop
that there is.
now. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not seeing anything for gifting.
I think that part of the reason that they might do that too is that if you have some club points, you can get a discount for purchases and stuff like that. But I think that's
Hmm.
only applicable to games. I don't know that it would actually apply to steel purchases because I think, well, I don't look at this.
Yeah, I never tried that actually using
I,
the Uplay points.
I think
Let me
you
have a
have
look
to
at that.
be in game to actually do the purchasing.
Let's find out.
It's just we're doing it live, y'all.
I'm on the Uplay system right now, so let's see. For
Just
Honor. You can buy steel through Uplay. You don't have to be in game.
interesting.
All right, so let's find the highest bundle. £83. So I can earn things for it. I can add a promotional code to it if I want to. But I'm not seeing any option to coupon it with Uplay.
Yeah, the club points, you can redeem those and you'll get like a 20% off your next purchase, but I don't know if it would actually apply to the steel purchases or not.
Hmm.
That's it. Yeah, I'm
'Cause-
pulling up the store too because like now I'm curious because I don't look at the store that often. Yeah, there's the get 20% discount with 100 club points. The thing is, side note for club points, they do expire. I had like 400 and
Yeah,
they
they
just went
added that
away.
recently. That's a little annoying.
It
I'm used to
is.
hoarding mine.
Yeah, I was hoarding it too, just because it reminds me like, oh, you have all these achievements that you've accomplished, not accomplished, that you've accumulated through playing games, buying games. You have all this effectively you play steel, if you will, this
Hmm.
generic steel U coins and stuff and it just I don't know, I like that, but yeah, once I saw those go away, it's like 448 are gone overnight. I'm like, what? Okay, but anyway, so. with that, I think that would be a
Massive
great
tangent
addition.
number 3.
Yeah, tangent number 3 or 4 or 5. This tends to happen with me. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry.
You're a bad influence.
I'm a terrible influence, but it's great content.
Pad out that runtime, baby.
Yes, baby. We got to get to those 10 minutes multiplied by 3 hours.
We're mildly past the 10
We're
minute and 1
mildly
second
past
mark,
the 10
Chief.
minute mark. For those of you who don't get the 10-minute reference, the sweet spot right now for the YouTube algorithm is a video that's at least 10 minutes or more. That's the joke. So Spectator Mode was something that was introduced back in with Raven and Light Boogie's tournaments on PC and consoles respectively, and they were it was interesting to see what it did back then. It was just launched yesterday, which is Thursday. This is being recorded on Friday, and it was announced that one of the biggest additions that I think was fantastic, and I want to hear what your thoughts are on this, is the ability to hold I think it's the button. And you actually had a chance to do all this, so I haven't had a chance to go in a game and do this yet because my network sucks. So holding the button and being able to push, holding I think it's the left or right button.
Left bumper for defense, right bumper for offense.
Okay, and then you could push
the face buttons. Y,
the face buttons.
X, A, B, triangle, square, X, circle.
There you go, exactly. I was gonna how do I address it? Do I just do one? Do I do them all? But yeah, face buttons. So,
So if I want to go to the 4th player on defense, I do right bumper circle, right bumper B.
Mm-hmm.
Although defense would be left bumper, so left bumper B, left bumper circle kind of thing. It's an improvement they made to the system for selecting players. It was better than their old one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I will say, now that Spectator's out in the wild, I feel comfortable talking about this. So Spectator's been in the go for a little bit. It was announced at E3 a while back in the pre-show for some reason.
Yep.
But it was done in the pre-show for Ubisoft. Side note, by the way, that For Honor's presence at E3, that was a weird E3.
It really
The biggest mode was announced during the pre-show, and then they announced the Shadows of Caden, the Shadow of the Hitakiri event, and then nothing else. It's weird. But then not even anything on Jormungandr, because that was the time we were expecting stuff on a tease for Yorm alongside Hito, because we knew because that was the mid-season event. But anyway, that's me ranting about stuff. So that was when Spectator was announced. Then before the Jormungandr streams, during the playtesting days they had us there for an extra day, primarily to test out some stuff with Spectator, because a lot of the people there was myself, there was Havoc, there was Light Boogie, there was Raven of For Honor Arena fame, there was Marco Yolo, there was so many people who would have used Spectator so heavily. They showed us it early and gave us a chance to give feedback and stuff. And one of the things they were prototyping was that face button selection system. And it felt so much better. And being able to give it a proper go. And then timeline from that, a little ways after that initial Jormungandr event, a select group of people were given early access and have had early access of it all the way up until now. Now it's released, but the catch was we couldn't use it publicly. We could say we had it. That was fine.
Yeah.
But we just couldn't publicly show it because it was early and it was a bit rough.
Yeah.
So understandably so, we get the toys, but we're only allowed to pull them out of the toy box when we're told to, understandably.
Right.
And that was a bit of a monkey's paw for me personally, Norgoz, because for the longest time, I bitched and moaned and cried, give me Spectator, I will do things with it. And then Ubisoft replies, okay, you can have it. Just you can only broadcast it when we say. It's all right. On the one hand, that's understandable. On the other hand, my greedy childish side says, fuck you, I've had to sit on this now and use this privately, just voyeuristically looking at stuff, because for months I could spectate people's games and no one knew, because of course this was early access. So I saw weird things. I saw custom games with random YouTubers who I never thought I'd catch dead in For Honor, just doing 2v1 customs, probably filming for a video or something. And then being able to see Spectator games. I've seen scrims and stuff, and Spectator has been it germinating for a while now. But now that it's finally out and in the open, everyone can use it. Now it's in a beta state. It's beta's a good tag for it because it
Yeah.
is still a bit rough in terms like of crashing, and I'll talk about some of that stuff later on, Norgoz. But suffice to say, thank God we can finally use it publicly. Like, oh my God,
You
it's
can
been so rough.
call me Gaz. It's okay.
Mr. Goz. Oh, I've been not having a good time, Chief.
Thank Gaz. You're welcome.
Thank Goz.
You know, Verb, I appreciate you sharing that with us, because it's important to with that to keep in mind that through a developmental standpoint, there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes that the community may not ever hear about, or may not ever see, and the things that we've recently seen and had a chance to get our hands on, it's something that I know I'm probably on the cusp with this. I said this in the first show. I'm gonna just say interesting, and I'm gonna leave it alone because we can't really go into that. It's something that you know, I know
All I will say is we know nothing about like content-wise, nothing.
Yeah.
We don't know what the fuck's going on with year, like if there's going to be a
Anything.
year 4 or anything.
Yeah.
All we've seen is some ideas thrown around, and it's
Yeah.
given us some context on some changes. Let's put it that way.
Exactly. And
To
it's
clarify, but yet keep it safe.
right. Exactly. No, you know, keep you gotta say you gotta say
Please
very,
don't
very,
assassinate us, Mr. Gizmo. Please.
sorry. No, I don't know. I was gonna say something, and I don't remember exactly how I was gonna word this now. But basically, this is some. Oh, I know. I was gonna play this in, like, I'm pretty confident this is, you know, things that we've seen along the way, publicly or non-publicly or whatever. We can tell that the development team they're taking their time to make sure things are being done right, and that's what I was leading up to. Is that, and I appreciate the hell out of that, because I am. Even, you know, not even regarding anything that I may be under NDA for. Just generally speaking, everything that we've seen up to this point points to a bright future. Spectator mode, recoveries being slashed across the board. The last couple major updates, the last few major updates. I mean, little tweaks here and there with tracking.
If only they do that for Hanju now, dear Lord.
You know, yeah, that it needs a little bit of work, but I think we could have a very solid hero on our hands if we just had a few minor tweaks here and there. Yeah.
I want to mention specifically, like, you talking about how long Spectator's been in the oven for. The first time I went to Montreal on that Jormungandr reveal, I was able to sit down and chat with the main Spectator heads for like bloody hours. And one of the things they kept like emphasizing to me was they've basically. Have you ever seen that GIF of Wallace and Gromit, where Gromit, the dog, the claymation dog, is having to put the train tracks in front of him as he's going on the train? They're making a lot of For Honor has basically been that, because they couldn't do anything with Spectator until the dedicated servers were done. Like, that was impossible. You couldn't do Spectator in a proper manner. Like, you could technically do it, but it would be horrendous. It would cause lag. Like, the old joke running around of, oh, if you spectate someone, it'll give them an extra revenge tag. Like, that actually could have happened. But they waited for dedicated servers, and as soon as that happened, they got to work. That was the big thing, and why it's taken so long. They've had to sit on their asses, sit on their hands, and wait for dedicated. But now Dedies have been in for ages now. They've gotten Spectator to a point where they can release it, and it's now in a nice place. For those of you who are unfamiliar with how Spectator works, basically, the match is playing in like a box, quote unquote, and the Spectator is kind of glued to the outside looking in. It can't physically mess with anything. It can't see the chat, like the in-game chat. So the people doing production, you can't see the trash talk, but at the same time, production doesn't have to worry about the stream getting taken down for seeing gamer words in the in-game chat from someone who's tilting. And, like, it can't do anything like that. Like, the only interactions there are between players and spectators is, in custom games, you have the option to set a delay of your choice for the spectator or anyone who wants to spectate of, like, a maximum of, like, a couple minutes. Or you can even turn off spectating entirely for customs.
Oh.
Like, that's the only interaction there is. Yeah, like, in custom games, there's now an option.
I was going to say, so that's live now.
Yeah, that's now. You can do that right now. So if you're doing like secret scrims to like test out new straps and you don't want anyone spying on you, you can just turn that off, and you can't, and no eye appears, because to spectate someone, you need them on on your friends list, and
Right.
an eye will appear in the friends list. Oops. That an eye will appear in the friends list, and it will be there, like showing you what it is. Yeah, the eye is okay, but I just realized I was trying to do an eye. Why am I doing the
visual.
okay sound? What the fuck am I doing?
Gotcha.
But then, yeah, the eye, the eye
The
sign,
all-seeing eye.
the all-seeing eye. That's what you look
Hmm.
for if you want to spectate someone right now.
Mhm.
Since everyone can do it, but if you don't want to be spectated, you can turn that off in customs. But that's the only interaction there is between like players and spectator. Apart from that, it's basically a walled garden that you just kind of look over. Like, so there's no like increased latency or anything like that. Like, fortunately, because the main thing when we gave feedback to the spectator team was, even if you have to strip back features and take longer, make sure this shit is solid and doesn't crash as much as you can. Now, unfortunately, it does crash a bit, bless its heart, at
Yep.
least in its current state, as you
Yep.
may have seen on the stream I did yesterday or the day before. I think it was the day before. I actually don't remember. Time's a bit weird. I've been playing a lot of Jedi
Technically,
Fallen Order.
it could have been the day before for you, but for me, it was just
Yeah.
yesterday.
It does crash a decent bit, but hopefully they can get that ironed out pretty quickly. But apart from that, like where it is right now functionally, it's pretty darn good. The only features, at least for me, Norgoz, I want to get your opinion on it because you've also dabbled a bit in it. But especially during the test day that they had a little while back in October. But for me, the only feature I'd want immediately is the ability to do partied up synchronized spectating. So being able to like
Ooh,
party up as a
yes.
group and spectate the same game together at the same time and see it on the same timestamp. So you can do like basically tournament productions without having to do a Discord screen share. Because that's one of the biggest limiting factors with Spectator right now is only you spectate like 3, 2, 1, go. That's
Mhm.
basically when you have to time it, and even then, it's not guaranteed that you're gonna get the same timing. Apart from that, that's like the only feature I'd want immediately.
I think that's something that definitely needs to be a priority for sure. Having the ability to like jump in a group and jump into the spectate at the same. I don't know how they, even with what you just described, though, I'm not sure how they would get it going unless they basically made a spectator versus screen, so to speak. Not a versus screen literally, but a screen in which a loading screen basically, where you didn't go into the match until everybody had loaded everything entirely in its entirety. Because even then, you might still have some little hiccups here and there to where you might not be exactly on
That
the
kind
same
of already
moment.
exists.
You know, so
If you load into Spectator right now, it'll show like a blankish screen showing the faction war map,
yeah.
and then it will load you in to like
Right.
the player face off. So I think that's like the Spectator loading. I think.
So yeah, so what I'm thinking though is still, unless they set that up to where if when you're in a group, you didn't go in until everybody was already preloaded. I think that's the closest you could probably get to making it work out. And I think it. The more I think about it, the more I think it sounds like it would be complicated to implement. But I really do agree with you. It is something that would be. You know what? The thing is, the complicated shit. That's not our fucking problem. That's not a solution I have to come up with. I do
It's
not
like,
envy the team. I do not envy the team on
I
that.
have a theory. You know how for the longest time in Spectator, and for people who don't know, for the longest time you couldn't see indicators in Spectator. Like
Right.
when you were like hovering on someone, you couldn't see them. That only got added in with this beta. I have a feeling that was only enabled because if you look in the patch notes for this season, they noticed kind of casually there was a UI refactoring they did.
Mm-hmm.
I suspect that was one of the reasons why, was to allow for indicators to come up in Spectator. I don't know if that's actually a thing or if I'm just talking out my arse.
No, I
Probably
think
out my
you're right.
arse. But I suspect that was why. And yeah, they're probably going to have to do some more re-engineering to allow for spectator parties and that kind of thing. The only other thing I think that we would want right now for creators, at least for me, would be a replay system, but that would require even more re-engineering.
Yes.
Because I actually specifically brought that up with the guys over at Ubi. That requires a decent bit of re-engineering.
I mentioned that as well, and I brought it up in comparison with Heroes of the Storm, actually, which I think you've got a little bit of history with, Verb, if I remember right.
I've dabbled in it here and there, not massively, but I've played it a little bit.
So the Blizzard's Heroes of the Storm system, and I probably said this on the show at some point in time, but to give an overview, so it's a MOBA. Basically, the way that that works is that there's a recording system that you can turn on or turn off, and basically when you play the game, game's over. It's saved in a file, and you click on it, you pull it up, and you can play, you can pause, you can fast forward, you can rewind, you can move all over the map, and it in however you want to. You can focus on one character or a different character. You see the entire. You have like an overlay at the top of the screen, like you do with For Honor. See people's hells, their traits, their ultimates, and experience, and all that good stuff. And you can maneuver it. And I think that's kind of what you're getting with with the playback. I really want that to be there. I think that that might even be I don't know, man. Those are two really important features. I don't know if I could prioritize the other, but I
Yeah,
think
they're for
though
different audiences. Like for me,
they
I
are.
want the synchronized playback. But for someone like Havoc or Marco Yolo,
Yep.
who does content production, or like
Hmm.
Era DeLupi, for example, shout
Yes.
out to Era DeLupi, they would want replays so they could go back in and do cinematic shots and that kind of thing. It's like
Oh wait,
the king. So go on.
sorry. I replays
Yeah,
like
replays.
instant replays. I think would be a really good one for tournaments too, though. So I think there is an overlap between those two.
Yeah, to an extent, yeah. I'm thinking more on the live end of things. Like synchronized parties would be way nicer for tournament production than the instant replays. Although instant replays will be good for stuff like after the tournament production stuff, like being able to get cool shots of team fights of like roundup videos. But like
Hmm.
YouTube content creators, like for montages and whatnot, like for example, look at anything Marco Yolo or Iron Pineapple has done with any Unreal 4 game, especially Mordhau. Like the replay, because Unreal 4 has a replay system built into the engine, and you can have any game you play in matchmaking, for instance, in Mordhau, you can just play it like normal, no special settings. But then you can go into the files, grab the replays, pull it back out,
Huh.
and play it in some manner that I'm not familiar with. And you can just watch that match back in real time, in game,
Hmm.
exactly how it happened. And then do all kinds of free cam shots and whatnot. So, like, for instance, Marco Yolo could have like a really shenanigansy game where he's kicking people off bridges. And this is something he actually did in the video, or it might have been Iron Pineapple. Apologies to both of the gentlemen if I'm forgetting. He had a really shenanigansy game in matchmaking, just chilling on stream, where he kicked like 6 or 7 people off a log bridge. Then he went back in Unreal 4 Replayer, got like a really cool undershot with the sun coming in, and stuck Ave Maria over the top of it, and it was fantastic. And you can only do that because Unreal 4 has that kind of powerful replay system built in. For Honor's not going to get anywhere near that because, of course, the
Limitations.
Wallace and Gromit building as you're going analogy applies here. But
Yeah.
if we could just even get a basic like replay system in place, like YouTubers would especially appreciate that. Montage makers,
Absolutely.
tournaments may appreciate that for some stuff, but that is very much for a different audience than myself.
I would personally argue that the replay system, because of the ability to utilize it in not only content creation, but I think I don't know. I'm gonna argue with you on this one. I'm gonna argue with you on this one.
Oh,
So this one, I genuinely think that if we were to prioritize between those two, and I'm sure there's other things that I could probably think of, but I really think these. I agree with you that these are probably the two most important ones right now, and I would argue that the replay feature is more important for many reasons. For like you said, content production, that also goes into the factor of if you consider it as free marketing, and that's a really important part of this game's development in a way. It's the marketing of the game. I mean, they've always dumped a lot of money into marketing from the very beginning. We know this. They had a freaking Super Bowl ad, for God's sake. I mean, that was a
yeah.
big deal.
Ubisoft's not afraid to splash out with its marketing.
They
Like
are
it's got a lot in the
they were
tank there.
Yeah, they were not afraid. I mean, I remember watching small rant. I remember watching the documentary Playing Hard, and Vandenberg was talking about how we asked for this much and they said, "Okay, here's this and here's some more." And he's like, "Oh, now I have everything that I need." And I thought that was beautiful. I mean, it warmed my heart to see that moment. It really, really did. That the business was believed so much in the potential for this game, not just as something that could be revenue, but something that could be successful and people could enjoy. That all ties in together. So I thought that was pretty awesome. So, but as far as like the it is in a sense with that it's kind of like free marketing, but it's also something that I think that there is because there is the overlap. I think that tournament organizers and shoutcasters would probably use those features a little bit, especially if, and here's a third feature, I guess, especially if in some ways you can interact like pull like a John Madden, and which I know some people have done through other means, but in some ways like do like a John Madden kind of thing, which would be an entirely different layer. Then I don't think that would happen at the same time, but that's something that allows that to be more of a focus, because even if you can draw on the screen, if you can't go back and play it back without like pulling up your own VOD or something to that degree, going above and beyond, because you still can't pause the live feed. You're going to miss out on the live feed without being,
Yeah, like the closest you can get to a John Madden right now would be using like an OBS instant replay feature.
mm-hmm.
To you can
Boom.
like call up a instantly recorded VOD shadow play style and kind of do that.
That too. Yeah.
There are ways to do that, but I can kind of see where you're getting at it. At the very minimum, Norgoz. I can see the direction you're going with it.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate that. I do. Like, I really, I would fight for that, but I also see Verb, where you're coming from with the ability to
synchronize parties.
Yeah, it's such a huge, it's so important. It really is, especially if we're gonna push this for a tournament based, type of deal. And that's exactly what its primary function is. It's not just for, I mean, content creators are definitely going to be able to use it, but I believe that its primary function is to display the game the way it's supposed to be shown and showcased in a tournament setting. And I think that that's where it really and truly shines. So I think that we both have some really, uh, really good points for both of those, and I do think that those are probably the two most important features that would want to be added. Before I forget this, let me go back to this UI thing. I've been holding on to this one. The UI change. One of the UI changes. If you turn the UI off now, the auras around the defenders and the attackers go away. That was something that they said was done for like content creation and stuff. So I agree. So going back,
Marco Yolo specifically like told them, "Hey, we need that bloody gone. Like,
Yeah.
for outlines, please." And yeah, that came in, fortunately.
So that was something going back to where I said before, to reiterate, I think that you're right. I think that's definitely why some of those the UI changes had taken place, for sure. It being implemented, there's no it's not a coincidence, let's change the UI the same day that Spec Mode goes into the game. Yeah, I'm gonna say it's not a coincidence. I'm gonna say that Verbalosity is 100% on the money on this one. So,
yeah, like it putting the groundwork for it. It's like I might be connecting dots that don't exist, but it feels like I'm connecting some dots here.
I'm pretty sure you got X gets the square here, John.
X gets the square.
X gets the square.
John bloody Madden. If he wasn't such a good football analyst, I would accuse him of having dementia.
Okay,
Like,
John. Take my sixth shot for the day.
Oh no, yeah, not dementia, drunk. That's probably the better answer. Drunk.
But
like, that's probably it.
Okay, so I have a story about him, and I'm gonna leave it alone though. It's the history of the original Madden game, but I probably talked about him.
Lore.
Huh?
It is some lore.
It is some lore. I can make it short. He saw it first, and he's like, "What the hell is this?" It was on Nintendo. He thought it was gonna look like realistic, like VR kind of thing, and he's like, "The hell is this shit? Fix it." They go away. Comes back however long later, and he's like, "I guess it's acceptable." And then the first Madden becomes, and then since then it's evolved, and now Madden is a household name. Everybody knows Madden. I mean, everybody's known Madden for the longest time, but it's something that everybody knows, regardless of whether you're in football or not in football. You've heard about the game. It's something that comes out every year, and every year they add a little something.
Yeah.
So
It's
spectator
like
mode.
you don't play when you want to play a football video game, you don't play football, you play Madden.
You fucking play Madden. Yeah,
It's like when old people say you play the Nintendo with any video game console.
Tecmo Bowl.
Yeah. You play Madden.
You play Madden. You play Madden. And I'll
Even
be
if you play like the NCAA game, you're playing Madden.
you playing Madden. Exactly. So now we're not So what are we playing then? We're playing this medieval fighting game. What are we playing? What's ours? Is it
the Nintendo?
We're
It's
playing
always
the
the
Nintendo.
Nintendo.
It's always
You're
the
playing the
Nintendo.
Nintendos. You're playing the PlayStations.
What about the old schoolers? Like, are you playing the Street Fighters or what would they call this? Might and
Playing the Mortal Kombats.
Mortal Kombats, yeah, the Mortal
'Cause
Kombats.
Mortal Kombat was the one who actually got news times. You're playing
Yes,
the
it
Mortal
did.
Kombats.
I remember that one. It was what
The
was
Great
it?
Scare.
Yeah, the 90s. Yeah, somewhere in the 90s. It was that was the game that made the system. The freaking the ESRB? Yeah, the rating system. Yeah.
Yeah,
I remember
came
this.
out as a response to that.
Yeah, that was interesting. And Sega was the
That
only
and Manhunt.
Yeah. Sega was the only one who had the guts to put blood in there too. I was that was interesting. This Nintendo was like you see
That was
sweat.
before my time. I was born in '96.
Oh, well,
My first video game console was a PS1.
I was on the Atari, so I had some experience
You'll have to
with
give
that.
me an education on that.
Oh, it was fun. It was fun. I still remember ET sucking ass. Don't ever play ET. Don't ever play ET.
That caused a crash.
It
Like
was
an actual market crash.
it was terrible. It was so terrible, man. It was so
Buried
so
in the
bad.
desert.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's out at Area 51 where everybody gathered. They were stomping their feet like they were in the Matrix, and they were all dancing around. And it was actually on the grave of the ET game. It's a thing. That's what's in Area 51 is the ET game. That's what's there. You're right there, Verb. Looks like you're about to lose your drink.
Bad timing for a drink.
I told you guys we like to have fun here. So, what is your overall view of Spectator Mode where we currently are now, and what do you think its primary focus is? Like, what do you see primarily used as?
For me, overall impression right now, a solid 7 out of 10 IGN. Like, unironically, 7 out of 10. It's functional, gets the job done. Stability is a little questionable right now in some places. Like, I would be a little scared using it for tournament, put it that way.
Really?
I wouldn't be, like, horrendously scared, but I'd be a little concerned because there's been hitching in certain places, there's been crashing at us. The team's aware of it, like, they know, they've seen
it's a work in progress.
But it's in. Like I said, it's a beta for a reason. And in terms of features, it's relatively complete for, like, my uses at least. Like, all I would want is more stability and the synchronized party system and the replays, like you added. Replays will be nice as well. But that's about it. Like, functionality-wise, Spectator is bloody close to what I want. So, yeah, it's like a solid 7 out of 10. Like, they just need to improve it a bit more, and it will get higher up for me.
All right, 7 out of 10. Yeah, that reminds me of the infamous 6.5 out of 10 that IGN gave Blizzard Heroes of the Storm. That Blizzard completely they adopted it and memed on it because now it's a banner that you can drop in game. It says 6.5.
6.5.
Yeah, that's where that came from. It's funny as hell. I was one of those people that Mitch D. I won't say his name, I guess, because you know who
Mitch
I'm
Dyer.
talking about. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. He wrote that and he got a shit ton of flack for it. He blocked me, as a matter of fact, on Twitter because I called him out on it. I said, I don't remember what I said, but I respectfully disagreed with his review because he didn't understand the game. He basically said this game is too focused on focus is distracting. The objectives are a distraction from the main objective of the game, which is pushing lanes. And I'm like, you clearly don't understand what the game's about. You have Dota 2, you have League of Legends, you push lanes, you jungle. This game, you do have a little bit of jungle in the form of mercenaries, but the main thing that sets this game apart, Heroes of the Storm, apart from the others, Verb, is it's the objective based gameplay. Every map has a different objective that comes up every so often. It forces you into different roles, into team fights, into stuff, into focusing around those areas, and it forces you into different types of strategies that you won't see in League of Legends and you won't see in Dota 2. Don't you fucking yawn at me, man. I know.
Sorry, it's
I'm,
like 4:23
I
in the
know, I
morning.
know, I know. I'm just, I know. I'm sorry. Now you make me look like. Now you make me feel like this. I'm sorry. The thing is, Verbalosity is you know, you asked for this. You asked for this.
To be fair, I am an EU esports person. If I'm not like going to bed at 6 in the morning, I'm doing something wrong. But I'm
Fair
still gonna be
enough.
yawning my ass off because the air in my room is recycled as shit because my door's closed.
Sorry. I understand. I do. I get it. I don't sleep much either, but I also have my schedule's somewhat normal, but I don't sleep, so I can relate. I do. I have a lot of insomnia problems. But I digress. But he didn't, unfortunately he didn't understand, so I respectfully disagreed with him and I got blocked. It is what it is. I mean, you know, you get critics. I understand. It's not worth it to see that stuff in the long run. So nowadays, now I understand why that took place, but then I still kind of see a little humor in it, but it was, unfortunately, I still maintain it wasn't a very great review in the sense that it didn't seem like he fully understood grasp what the game's focus was. So I think they upped it to like a they did a new review and it's like I think it's like a 7 now. I don't even think it was a 7.5. I think it was a 7. So that's still better than was, but not by much. But I digress. But they both that is a perfect example. That game has a perfect example of what spectator mode could be, and I hope to see something close to that. I did. I think I mentioned this earlier. I mentioned that as an example to the dev team. I was like, "This is a perfect example," and I know it's got all the features that I could hope for, that a lot of casters, creators could hope for in it. And maybe we'll see something like that in the future. But I agree with you. It's in a pretty good state now. I think that a lot of content creators are. I actually no. We both know it's being utilized. It's being utilized. It's definitely being utilized, and I'm looking forward to seeing all of that content to come out in the near future. I may or may not have been involved in one of them. We'll find out in the near future. So that said, yeah, little teaser for you guys. I'm not saying anything else. So final thoughts, I guess, on where spectator mode is currently and where you see it going in the future.
Right now it's stuck the landing, but it wobbled a tiny bit. It just needs to fix some things up, and I'm really happy with it. Where it's going, just keep it sailing, keep it stable. Don't let it crash like crazy. I emphasize that because I came from Smite. That game's spectator is held together by shoestrings and tears.
Ouch.
That thing can barely function.
No bubblegum?
No bubble cum. It's bad.
Man.
It's really bad. And because of that, like the thing I am paranoid about is keep it stable so it doesn't break, and then worry about features. Because if it's stable, people can use it consistently. And where it's going, as long as you keep it stable, then they can start adding the cool features and whatnot as we go along. But yeah, that's basically I'm a solid satisfied. Like, I'm satisfied with it.
There you go.
I just need to see it improve now.
So we've got a good structure. We just have to build upon it. Our good foundation. There we go. We have a good foundation. We just have to build on it.
Yes.
I haven't had
Luckily,
a chance.
It's in beta.
I haven't had a chance. Yeah, it's a work in progress. It's not finished yet, guys. Just it's a friendly reminder. So there will be, as Verb has pointed out, there will be some bugs. There will be some glitches here and there. The team has recognized that as well. If you didn't see the live stream, they did say that there may be some little bugs here and there that may happen. It is what it is. It is something that I'm glad that it's here, and I'm grateful that it's here. I'm grateful that it came to fruition. This is not something the team really had to do. They didn't have to do this at all. The game was successful without it. Is it going to be more successful with spectator mode? I think in the long run, yes. I think it absolutely will be. That said, is it going to change the way people play the game in terms of population and bringing people back to the game purely because the spectator mode's there. I don't think it's necessarily gonna change the retention rate of players, but it is something that I think might draw in new players, especially if they're seeing, certain content creation or mainly tournaments. If they're seeing the tournaments, they're seeing it through the eyes of the spectator mode. They're gonna think, man, that's actually really cool. They see because just seeing it from one player's perspective is different than being able to see multiple perspectives. Hearing the shoutcasters talk about the optimal punishes and the maps and the intricacies of the game, there's a lot that goes into that. A lot more that goes into the over. It's like seeing a live show versus watching it on Netflix. You're not going to have the same experience. Spectator mode changes the game. It is a game changer, and I'm grateful that it's finally here because having my hands on it firsthand when I did that, when they did the stress test, I did a little shoutcasting then. I tried my hand at it, and it was so fun. It was so satisfying. And I'm very amateur when it comes to shoutcasting. I mean, I could talk my ass off. You guys know this because I talk a lot during the podcast, and I try to stay close to roughly 50-50 or at least 60-40 at the worst when it comes to sharing the mic in these one-on-one sessions, but it seems like I always find myself ranting and going over my time on my own time, so I suck. So I appreciate Verb being a good guy because I think him and I both, I said this offline, that you and I both have the type of personalities where we're very engaging when it comes to conversation, when it comes to other people, and when it comes to discussing things. We're very passionate and we're very open and in how we discuss things and whatnot. So I appreciate that about you. I mean, we talked about some of the topics beforehand before we did the finalize the topics in the show, and Verb has gave me a lot of insight on what he thought would be like. Oh, well, had this one you may want to wait on, and this one is good and whatnot. And I don't get that from every guest that I invite, so I greatly appreciate that from you, man. It may seem like a small like a minor thing, but it's a lot, man. I appreciate that.
Have it up.
So
But you mentioned the shoutcasting specifically.
yeah,
That's actually fun enough our next topic.
it is. That's where I was going. So it seems seems like you and I are on the same. You and I are on the same on the same page. I think you're doing a lot. You're doing a lot better transitionings than I do, though. So I'm gonna have to do better. You know what? You know what? Next time, Verb, I'm gonna let you host the show, and I'll be the guest. That's what I'm gonna do. So, um, shoutcasting. There's a When it comes to shoutcasting, this guy is your guy. We're talking about Verbalosity. I'm your host, Norgoz. This is the weekly Warcry podcast that you're listening to, that you're watching, wherever it is that you're watching and listening. We really, really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. We have meaningful discussions regarding community-driven topics here. And Verbalosity, Shoutcaster extraordinaire, was kind enough to grace us with his presence tonight, despite the time difference. I'm going to give you the daddy law treatment. You're the fucking Iron Man. I appreciate it.
If we're talking Iron Man, that's Daddy Law's title. Like, if I get close to a 12-hour stream, I've tried that before. I'm close to dying. That man regularly does 24 hours like it's for breakfast.
Yeah, he does.
That man is an Iron Man. I am simply EU gamer time.
Fair enough.
We do not believe in the concept of normal sleep schedules. It's not a thing.
Sleep? What's that?
Oh no, we get plenty of sleep. It's just we wake up at like 3 p.m.
I remember I used to have a schedule like that. I actually enjoyed it. I'm a night owl. I'm legitimately a night owl. If I can be awake overnight, it's nice. I like it. So shoutcasting. There's a lot that we can discuss. So Verb, I let you know ahead of time. There's some interview questions that I have for you regarding shoutcasting, regarding your history in this sport. So we've talked about that a little bit earlier tonight. But shoutcasting, for context, guys, what I want to talk about is shoutcasting, its place not only in For Honor but also in esports in general. But in relation to For Honor, where do you see the realm of shoutcasting in the sense that where it ties in with For Honor, where it ties in with tournaments, and how many shoutcasters are actually out there?
this is an interesting one because this is one I've stewed over for a while. Like, I've always looked over my shoulder a little bit in terms of commentary and For Honor because dedicated commentators for Honor is a bit sparse. Like, I have the market cornered, technically. Like, how many other people are there who can commentate well in For Honor? There's Clutchmeister. He's done solo shows. He does the Gladiator arena stuff now these days. He does that very well. There's Alerna King can do chair 2 analytical stuff pretty well, even though if he needs a chair 1 to inject even the modicum of hype to help him out, because he is very much the smooth, Polish kind of guy. He's just like, and yes, we can see this very complicated reason for X, Y, and Z going, kind of thing.
Yeah,
That's like a purge from Dota, and there's that kind of scenario. Apart from that, there's not too many other people. There's people who are dabbling, like you're dabbling in stuff. I think Mr. Kyle might have dabbled a tiny bit here or there.
Oh
but
gosh, I gotta see
part
that.
of, and like Light Boogie has dabbled too. Raven dabbles, but yeah, there's not too many like dedicated people constantly because either people are doing other things or just not able to do the time. Like Clutch doesn't like back in the day the Mistress Mayhems. Like the 2v2s, he commentated one of them back when there wasn't any commentators. That's the one before I got brought on to do the Mistress Mayhems, that for the first time, and eventually I did them for like a solid year. Clutch did the show for them, but then I think Clutch realized that he can make more money and get more views playing in them than actually commentating them, because he can make money from winning the tournament and also people donating because he can stream
Stream it.
versus being tied up in the tournament broadcast. There's not that many people who do it like as a proper thing apart from me. So I have the market cornered with that, but the more people do it, the better, hopefully, because I do want to commentate with more people in general. But commentary in For Honor's been a weird business because it's been kind of stunted until now with Spectator, because the only thing you could watch were either like properly, you could watch 1v1s or 2v2s. Those are the only things you could watch normally. And even then, those were some grade A ragu spaghetti to watch them. Many a dead shinobi was sacrificed in the name of esports. And if you wanted to watch 4v4 tournaments, the best you could do for a dedicated production end was restream someone else's stream and hope there were multiple streams of the same game, and then you swap between all those different views, almost like a sports center, like ESPN Sports Center kind of style. But it was like super. I didn't like it personally. I know some people did like that style of just like restreaming someone else's stream, but it looked tacky. You had to hope people were streaming. It's not great.
Yeah,
But
you
now,
gotta go on.
Go on.
I was just gonna interject and say you gotta be careful about that to make sure that people you got their permission for that stuff, because there's a TOS, and you just might want to, anybody who wants to do that, you want to look into that. You want to make sure you have permission, or at least that they're not gonna be offended.
Yeah, so that's gonna be a thing. But then also on top of that, like doing 1 versus 1 and 2 versus 2s, for those of you who are out of loop on Dead Shinobis, the joke. So the way we would do 1 versus 1 and 2 versus 2 tournaments, to spectate a 1 versus 1 tournament, you'd load up a brawl match, because then you get the specialized brawl maps that were smaller. The 1 or 2 commentators would run off to the side of the map, get murdered as Shinobis because they're the smallest HP pool. Then you would cancel your revive, so there's no indicator on the screen for the person who killed you, or the teammate who could revive you in theory. The 2 people who are actually fighting square off. They fight, they kill, someone dies. And then you had to do that whole process again of kill the commentators, reset, go. And it ate up so much time. And then it got worse in 2v2s. Because in 2v2s, there were lots of maps tried over the years, but it was generally agreed Temple Garden. Defender Spawn was the place to do 2v2s by the end of it, like that era, like the pre-Spectator era, we'll call it. And so what would happen is everyone would spawn on the map randomly in an elimination game. You'd load up an elimination game as the caster. People would load in. Casters, if there's 2, they'd preferably go for 1 for each team, so you get different camera perspectives, because you could only spectate your team or you're dead. You run over to defender side, get murdered, teams line up in the defender spawn inside the pillars. You tell them to start, and they go. They fight, they kill with whatever time's left. Usually, the official rule set is like 5 minutes. 3-minute rounds, I think. But we always made it 5 because it took like sometimes a solid like minute and 10 seconds to kill the casters. Because sometimes you spawn in the attacker side because elimination fighting areas. One of them's in the attacker spawn all the way down the hill.
Been there.
So you got to run all the way up, get murdered, then situate the fighters, make sure they're good to go, then you fight. And you have to do that over and over again. And the only way to speed that up was to hope you spawned on a point, the raised shrine. And this was back before the map rework. And then, yeah, you'd slide off the ledge to kill yourself. And that was the way you did it quicker, without having to have someone intervene and kill you. And it took so much time. And it was so frustrating. And then there was the problem of what happens if the casters accidentally like misclick like I did one time and like hit a player. Like, what do you do with that? Like, there's a whole range of options like and problems that can arise from that. But now with Spectator and dedicated servers, it's a lot more simpler. You just like get in an ideal world. We haven't actually had like a formalized rule set now in place, but my sort of working rule set that I've come up with is if it's a match that you're going to spectate, you tell them to wait, like prepared in a custom lobby. Then when the players are ready and you're ready, you tell them to go, and you're watching your friends list like a hawk.
Mm-hmm.
Wait for the eye to appear. You get that. The minimum technical delay in Spectator is 10 seconds. So you're going to get a 10-second delay, whatever you do. And then hopefully you get in as close to that 10-second mark as possible. Then you load into the match, and they just play. They can just freely play like a normal brawl match on the normal small brawl maps. You know, the Ring, Sanctuary. And what's the Viking one?
The Arena or
the Pit.
The pit.
Yeah, the pits. So, yeah, because, of course, each of those maps are chosen depending on the loser. It always starts off in the Ring, I believe. Or, no, it starts off Sanctuary, I want to say, in the rule sets. I don't remember. But essentially, even though they're all the same concept of a ring, like a small ring, their different sizes and shapes do give certain comps certain advantages. So, the teams will choose depending on drafts and rules.
Mm-hmm.
But they can still keep playing is the important thing. You're not holding them up. And if worst comes to worst, and for some reason the stream can't watch them, they're still playing. They're not having to wait on the commentators.
Right.
So the tournament bracket doesn't get held up. That's the most important thing. Even if your stream can't watch and you can't shoutcast it, don't hold up the goddamn bracket.
Yeah.
Because even if shoutcasters like Thanos snapped off the face of the planet, the tournament is still a tournament. People are still playing. You do not want the bracket getting held up. But with Spectator now being a thing, it's less likely to happen now. The most delay that there's going to be is maybe like one team starts before you tell them to start, and you're like waiting for like the eye to disappear and reappear when you didn't see, and there's like a whole like stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, shoutcasting these days, post Spectator introduction, is going to be a lot cleaner, less time wasting, which means shorter streams, because Norgoz, sometimes those brawl tournament streams, if they've got big brackets, they are pretty lengthy.
I hear you, Verb, and I'm telling you that that just what that brings me back to is, wow, there was a tournament that lasted a lot longer than it was expected to last.
Are you talking one of the recently or old?
Somewhat recently.
Oh, are you talking about the Spectator, one of the Spectator ones?
I may be. Yeah, I may be.
Ah, yes.
I may be the one that it may be the one that one of our shoutcasters had to take a nap in.
Yeah, for those of you that don't know the context, basically there was some unfortunate both technical difficulties and administrative conundrums that forced the tournament to overrun for so long that I got so tired, like, from doing commentary for the whole thing because of multiple restarts and whatnot, that I actually had to get a sub in and cash out for the night because I was exhausted. I couldn't put on a good product anymore. bless Vivid Naz, that wonderful man. He kept going, but that's because Vivid Naz is made of like excitement and possibly cocaine. I'm not quite sure. That like Vivid Naz is basically evil me. Like
Yeah.
he could just go forever.
That's such
Like
a
he
good
drinks like a
description.
monster and like doesn't get hangovers in the morning. He's actually insane.
That man's a
And
beast.
yeah, Vivid Naz is completely nuts. I was done by the end of that, and that was also those series of tournaments was where the chaotic evil caster boogie thing came from, because some people in the, I think it was the PlayStation tournaments, because
Yes.
those came first,
Yep.
were trying to mess around Boogie and his admins in the brackets,
Oh.
and they were getting up Boogie's wick,
Mm-hmm.
and it resulted in some wonderful commentary, because Boogie is not like me. I'm afraid of offending people because I'm not good at arguing. So I like everyone to like me. Boogie actually has testicles. He will argue with someone. He doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
So there was some wonderful moments on stream of him just not giving a flying care in the world.
He's a smart guy too. He's witty. He's knowledgeable. He knows his shit, and yeah, he's not afraid to tell you like it is. This is something I love about the guy. Like if you're on his good side, you can clearly tell he's a good guy. He genuinely wants the best, for the best production, and in his tournaments, he wants the best for the best outcome for everybody, and and it shows in his preparation. And but if you get on that man's bad side, God's help you. God's help you. He is relentless. And that was some of the most entertaining shoutcasting I've ever seen. It's definitely top five. Definitely top five moments that I've in esports history for me in terms of like shoutcasting. Absolutely. Absolutely top five moments for sure. That was hilarious. And you and Vivid have some very interesting moments when you guys synergize and click up together. And that's something that I want to have with someone at some point. I want to have that kind of relationship where you play off of each other's energy, and you will
You'll be surprised with how little time that takes. Because funnily enough, me and Vivid don't actually like talk too much outside of shows. Like it's picked up more frequently now that we've actually met, like talked to each other and met IRL in Montreal. But before that, we didn't run in the same social circles. Like Vivid was busy studying for university and like all that stuff. He wasn't playing too much For Honor. He took a big break after like Hero Series and to like study up in university. Now that he's out and actually in the workforce in London, he moved down from Edinburgh. Like he's got a bit more time to sort of game and meme and whatnot. But at the time, no, like we didn't talk too much. But it clicks properly. Sometimes all it takes is just the right person you get on with, and just like at a fundamental level, and it works great. It's like what do you call it? I think for you, Norgoz, it would have to be someone from a similar part of the world to you. So it would have to be NA, unless you can like get some sort of marvelous connection with someone EU side. I think it would have to be someone NA. Like if I had to throw names out of my ass, two names for me that would synergize well with you immediately on a casting desk would either be Boogie or it would be Mr. Kyle. One of the two. You have similar personalities and styles to both of them, to where I'd want to sit down and listen because it would just be a barrel of fucking laughs.
I think that you are right on the money, man. I think that we would synergize together really, really well. Mr. Kyle is better at improv kind of on the fly than I am. I generally tend to have a kind of an idea of some things that I want to cover or make jokes about, and then I'll have at least kind of like a baseline, and I'll like play off of that. But and Boogie is he's good. I can bring some. I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. I agree with that. If I were to throw another name in the hat, Hyperion and I have done some
Ooh, that's an old name.
That's an old name.
Ooh.
Yeah, we are yeah, he's a friend of mine, and I'm happy to say that he's a friend of mine. He's a good dude. We still talk from time to time offline, and we did some collaborations like way back in his early days, and We've done a couple here and there along the way. He's came on the podcast a couple times, and every single time I ever have like a discussion with him in a live setting, we seem to play together really well. But I think that but I've had those same moments with both Mr. Kyle and Boogie, and I think that I like to believe that I get along with most anybody, but there's a different kind of energy that we're talking about, and I think that you're right on the money with those two. I think that because I remember I had the moment with Boogie where we were. Did you see the bathwater clip?
Which one?
Which one? Oh, verb.
Because there's the original like bathwater clip that started it all. Is there like a For Honor one?
There's
Like I'm not aware of.
Sort of, I guess. Episode 10. Boogie, Tree Jack, and I were talking, and we have this little. I think it's like roughly halfway through the show. We're do this like. I ask him. I say something about I'm trying to do the community showcase that I did in the last few shows of last season, where I would
Yeah.
call out somebody or spotlight somebody that was in the community. Try to personalize that. Say not only who they are but what they do within the community. And I haven't done that yet this season, and maybe I'll bring that back and we'll see it. But I think I try to do that in my general day to day and in like in passing when it comes to content creation. I throw a lot of people's names out there because there's a lot of talent when it comes to For Honor. There is when it comes to For Honor content creation. There's definitely a lot of talent that's out there. I actually said that I actually have said that a lot, and I firmly believe that it is something that the God, where was I going with that? I'm so lost now. I was going somewhere with that verb. It was important. It was pertinent. I'm lost now. I need you to
Oh.
bring me back home, baby. I need you to be. So halfway through episode 10, uh, Boogie and I I was going through that, and then I said, I want to personalize these things. I mentioned to somebody or something I wanted to be as the showcase that week, and I said, I want to try and personalize these things as much as I can. And I didn't. I don't know as much about this person as I'd like to, but I know what they've accomplished in the community, and I know what they do to ingrain themselves in the community. But I want to personalize these things more. And I said something like, I can't just like jump in and like I don't know exactly what it was how exactly I said this, but it was somehow or another I said, I can't just like get like a lock of their hair and be like, here it is, we just got it's the I don't know. This is going to sound just really weird now, but ultimately it led into as soon as I said that I said in a completely unrelated incident, Boogie, can I please get a sample of your silver hair? Completely unrelated to the showcase, I need a sample of your hair. And that's when he said, well, it's funny you say that because I got this I got this package that includes my bathwater. So, so I got the hair sample and the bathwater for the low price of $99.
I can just imagine. I need to go back and watch that clip because I can just imagine Boogie deadpan delivering that.
Yes, he did.
I
Dead serious, 100 just like full. It was a fun time, man. That's why I say, guys, we like to have fun here. That's why I prefer like a 2-person or 3-person show. 4 people are great for discussions, but if you have a third person, if you have a disagreement, you always have somebody to be the deal breaker, the deciding vote. Yeah, tiebreaker, the deciding vote. With 2 people, it's more personal. It's even more casual. We get to go off script sometimes and have fun with stuff like that. And it's been an honor having you here and talking about all these things. That I have a couple more questions for you in regards to shoutcasting, and one final question that we'll be wrapping up here in a little bit, guys. Again, I'm your host Norgoz. You're listening to the Weekly Warcry podcast. My guest, Verbalosity. Remind us where all can we find you, Verb? And are you going to be streaming anymore? More often?
You can find me first of all at just anywhere Verbalosity Fortunately, universal branding is a wonderful thing. So you just Twitch, YouTube. I technically have a YouTube, I suppose. Mainly Twitter, but I do stream on Twitch.
Mhm.
Admittedly, I stream extremely infrequently. I'm not like an actual streamer. I just happen to have a Twitch channel that I use sometimes, and I'll be getting more frequent because in my downtime, I now can do like scrim cams or just randomly spectate people and do like fun commentary over it. But with now with Spectator, expect more streams. Still not going to be considered anywhere close to frequent or normal, but it will be more frequent than mine is currently right now. But if you want to find me, just look up Verbalosity. It's pretty much the same thing on all platforms. Fortunately, I haven't had to worry about any kind of random name changes.
Awesome. That's yeah, that's a big one. The universal branding. So with shoutcasting, we've talked about your history. We've talked about, but what we haven't talked about is, so what do you do in terms of, for anybody who wants to become a shoutcaster in general or in the For Honor realm? What tips would you have for them? Like, what do you do to prepare yourself to shoutcast a tournament or some type of an event? What goes into your preparation? Do you have a certain ritual that you go into? Do you go into the game and play it? Do you like go into at this point? Would you like go into spectator mode and go to spectate certain things? Is there certain maps that you'll like just walk around in and custom or something? You know, what do you do?
Well, you gave me a couple questions there, so I'll break them down in order. The first one was, how do you get into it? Literally, just just start like privately to yourself. No one else is in the house, so like you don't feel like you're being judged. That's the important bit. You want to do it, no judgment on yourself. So if you get the opportunity, wait till no one's in the house, then just privately to yourself, find a VOD of like a competitive match or a 1v1, and then just record yourself commentating over it for fun and see what it sounds like. Did you enjoy the process? That kind of thing. Because if it doesn't click, it's not gonna go for you. Like I've naturally been a very over explainy kind of person, so before I even did that, I knew it would click for me because I got my starting commentary like on a open casting call for a Smite community like casting service basically called Smite Scrims. But even before then, like in English class, I would always be the person in the reading circle who'd read out loud way too much. When it became my turn, you were only meant to read one page, but I'd read like three, and no one would mind because I could actually read it. I actually gave a shit about reading the book out loud, so I knew that was kind of my thing. But if it does actually click for you, then you can start messing around a bit, like just fun stream stuff. Like when you like one thing you can do to sort of see if you can commentate well is when you're talking on stream. Can you, if you've got a view count of say 0, can you still talk and keep up an
Mm.
interesting dialogue on stream? Because if that's going to help me out massively, because a lot of commentary is just bullshitting and getting between the good actions, and then you eventually fill the bullshit in with analytical stuff or weird stuff about the players or information, but a lot of it is just bullshit. Like, and if you can get that down, that's a lot of the basics immediately. Then in terms of the next question, but in next question you gave in terms of what was it, For Honor
Preparation.
specifically, preparation, yeah, entirely dependent on the mode and the event. Take for example, I'll take two examples. When I did Mistress Mayhem's back in the day, the 2v2s, they were monthly tournaments with a consistent couple teams coming in alongside randoms for a okayish prize pool that fluctuated. So what I would do to prepare is try and get stats as I can on the teams. What are their win losses in the tournaments? Who's won the most? Is anyone on a streak? Because you can get that kind of information, and you can make it relevant. And then if you want to make sure you're hot on the game, quote unquote. So just don't even like do specialty stuff on 2v2s, although that does help. Just play the game. Get back into that mindset, because like me, if I've been like taking a break from For Honor, like I sometimes do, and just playing other games, I'll come back into the game and have no clue what I'm doing or saying. I'll play a game or two and I'll be straight back in. I'm back hot. So sometimes you got to play a game or two and get back into the mindset. But then after that, yeah, just get back, get hot and getting information for like a league format. But as a completely opposite example for the season reveal streams, the two that I've been invited to in Montreal, you take a different tack for that. It's a live event that's designed for promotion primarily,
Mm-hmm.
but does have exhibition esportsy style things. So you could try and esports it up, but at the end, let's be honest here, Norgoz, those matches are the whose line is it anywhere of esports. The scores are all made up and no one gives a shit.
Yeah.
Like, does anyone here remember the score line between the teams of the set of the Sundar reveal stream? Like,
No.
it, yeah,
No one remembers it, but everybody in chat comments on it.
yeah. So the best thing you can do for say one of those, or at least the stuff I did, was I focused on the relevant things that people watching give a shit about.
Right.
Brand new information, accurate information on the new contents, and making sure you're easy listening. Because you could try and I can the first time I did the reveal stream for Jormungand, I went through each individual person's streams that was playing,
Mm.
went through like some tape, like studied fucking tape on each of the people, went through their For Honor tracker stats and like noted stuff down. But then when I actually got out of the airport and got to the hotel, looked at my stats and realized no one's gonna give a shit about any of this.
Yeah.
Like, this is a fun stream. What am I doing? So I just I didn't scrap it, but I just put it away and didn't worry. And instead got to learning things like the move names, the stats, like stuff with the patch notes. If I could find those out early, start teasing them throughout the stream, because people are there for new information. So you gotta pre-game consistently based on what you're doing. Like a league-ish consistent format like Mistress Mayhem demands different preparation than say just like the season reveal streams where you're going to be there more as just a nice audio backing track to the new content being shown off, because those exhibition matches are basically just really long demonstrations
Yeah.
of the breach map and the new heroes.
Exactly. And that's why, I like that you clarify that way too. We're there to showcase those things. I played my main and I played Raider. We played Raider because my primary function for
Show off
that
the nerfs.
show off the changes, exactly. And you were looking for that. I went back and I watched the VOD. You were specifically looking for that. You're like, well, we'll see when he does the storming tap, guys, something may have changed. And then when you finally started landing, you see, did you see something different with that? Ah, yes,
Because
there
it's
was.
new information.
Exactly.
Because at the run of show, the patch notes section happened after the exhibition,
Mhm.
so people don't know unless, of course, they saw the patch notes that came out early. Because it did actually apparently got released early by
Yeah.
someone at Ubisoft partway through the show, so it was slowly disseminating through the community.
Mhm.
But of course, people may not be keeping an eye on that. They may just be casually watching the stream.
Yeah, I think a lot more casually watch the stream than actually read the patch notes.
Hmm.
Because I typically will watch the stream before I read the patch notes. But
Yeah.
if it's assuming they're available beforehand. But anywho, so that's a lot of very good information. So ultimately, what it comes down to is, depending on the event, you may prepare in different ways. But if you're looking to get into it, you want to basically make sure that you can talk to yourself and be able to commentate in a way that's providing information, enough bullshit to keep you going until you actually have some more important information to give out, or more important moments, and eventually being able to weave in like technical stuff into
Hmm.
it, or be able to talk about the characters. Like, well, we have, right now we've got Daddy Law going up against Havoc. Havoc is very well known as a duelist primarily, so he may have the advantage in this fight. We'll have to see where he goes, because Daddy Law's got
Yeah.
the Lawbringer and so on and so forth. So something kind of like that's kind of what you're talking as an example, right?
Yeah, like that kind of information, and then all of that together as a package, like you said, Norgoz, to tie it all off. Most importantly, you've got to give a shit, actually care, because like streaming, like doing YouTube videos, like anything else, if you're not in it having fun, or at the very minimum, you're not enthralled, you don't care, people will tell.
Yeah.
Like, you can be deadpan, like, not like hyper super play by play, but you can tell if someone is interested. If they're not interested, if they're not engaged by what they're talking about, it shows. So because of that, don't try and commentate something you don't enjoy. If you don't like commentating for on a 2v2s because it can be boring, and that they can be absolutely be boring depending on the composition right now.
Yep.
Like, don't commentate 2v2s. Like, I've commentated a lot of 2v2s, and I don't plan to commentate that many 2v2s in the future unless I get paid very well, because depending on how good or bad the players are, if they're like the best of the best players, it can be quite dull unless you really like the minutiae of 2v2s, which I like to an extent, but over
Yeah.
time has worn off. Like, I have Dominion and Breach now. It's like, it's much more exciting.
Yes.
Those are the better competitive modes. And it's the same with like other games. It's like if you really enjoyed, like, say, like Sons of Iron or a Company of Heroes, like RTS commentary, like look up in Nuki, like one of the best like community commentators for that. Or if you enjoy FPS, just like find a random like like if you like enjoy watching or like CS:GO stuff, start messing around with some like demo VODs or Overwatch VODs from CS:GO. It's something you've got to enjoy talking about, is the important bit, because if you don't enjoy it, no one's gonna give a shit.
Right. So find your passion and go for it. If that's what you want to do, go for it. I'm definitely interested in going into shoutcasting, and I know you and I have talked shop before in Montreal, and learning that, being able to talk with you about those things and hearing your history was I mean, really, I knew that you knew your craft, but I didn't know everything about your history, all the games that you've been involved in, and your story along the way. And I appreciate you sharing that with us tonight, and sharing your insight into the mind of a shoutcaster, if you will, because I know that there's people that are out there that want to do it. I know there's people out there that are just interested in knowing more about that, because shoutcasting is one of those things that not everybody can do. It's the same thing with like any entertainment thing, I guess, because at the end of the day, you either have it or you don't, and you, my man, you clearly have it. So, thank you very much for sharing all of that. Is the last final notes regarding shoutcasting in general, in regards to For Honor, anything that you think that we haven't already discussed that you would like to make sure that we inject?
There needs to be a plaque to all the dead shinobis. That's it. That Ubisoft needs to put a plaque in on Temple Garden A Point in memory to all the dead shinobis. That's it.
All right, dev team, you heard it here first. We need a plaque, some type of memorial or item to honor the shinobis that have yeeted themselves continuously off of Temple Garden. Can we get that in the future at some point in time? Is that a possibility? Is there a rework on Temple Garden in the future that maybe you can weave that into? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Possibly, I don't know. That's not any information I know, guys. That's just a joke. So, thanks again for being with us. There's one final question that I've got for you. When we were in Montreal, and this footage hasn't been released yet, I have to get this all edited out because of inconsistencies in vocals due to how I had everything set up. But I asked you how has For Honor changed your life, and with what we've talked about tonight, and what you and I talked about in Montreal, and knowing what I know about you now, like I can see that For Honor's changed your life a lot, and we appreciate you being part of the community. And I have actually sort of a two-part question for you tonight. What is one of the greatest memories that you have that involve For Honor? And I don't know what the second part was, so I'm just going to leave it at that.
Best memory, probably like out of all time or recently.
Whichever you're more comfortable with rehashing.
Because if it was recently, it would definitely be the Montreal trips, hanging out with people I was like used to seeing like on Twitter or YouTube, like both times being able to do that. The people was the best thing, but all time best memory would probably be the alphas, like the early alphas that had NDAs on them where you couldn't record. I had such fun. I was such enthralled by the game that I told myself, okay, Oliver, my boy, you're going to probably go into content withdrawal. Next time you're able to play this, next time they open the game up in like 2016, like late 2016, well, I think was the first alpha where the NDA was off, maybe
Yeah,
early 2017.
I think you're right. They didn't have a lot of
Yeah,
them before it actually went live.
because the first alpha I played was like September, October, 2016, and it was like,
That sounds
okay,
right.
you need to record footage, like, to watch back of yourself playing the game, because there's not going to be enough content to satisfy you until you can play the game again, until Valentine's Day. And I was right, because I was having that much fun with For Honor at the time. Like, on my YouTube channel, there's like an entire playlist of of me just streaming me playing the alphas. There's like a solid like 21 hours, and I think I've watched that 21 hours like 3 separate times, like continuously, because I just wanted content to watch of the alphas until the game released. Like, that was the first time in a very, very long time I was in actual withdrawal over a video game. Was the initial For Honor like alphas and release. Because ever since when I saw that game at E3 like 2016, I was enraptured. I
Yeah.
really wanted to play it.
Yeah, it was.
So that is the all-time one, was that memory. But recently, easy meeting people in Montreal, just being able to hang out and chill. The content stuff was cool. Being able to like go into the development studios as well was like insane for me. I've actually taken stock recently of the games I play a lot. Like 50% of them are Ubisoft titles, between Siege and For Honor, because that's a lot of my playtime. And being able to go in and just like wander around the studio, like For Honor section, or go on tour and see the whole thing, like that's insane in of itself. Yeah, but that's basically the breakdown for me on like best memories.
I have to. I think that I. Excuse me. I appreciate you sharing that with us, man. And I know that I know what you. And now I really truly understand. You know, kind of where you're coming from when you talk about going through and seeing the things that seeing everything up close and being able to interact with things on a like you get to it's like you get to hold it in your hand as opposed to just kind of glancing at it from afar, and it's an experience, and I'm glad that you have had the opportunity to do that because you fucking deserve it, and you are a big part of this community. You've been a big part of this community for the longest time. You and I think first really kind of bumped into each other. I think really I think the first time we kind of started interacting was around the podcast when it first got started. I think it's when you and I kind of first started talking, and ever since then I've paid much more closer attention, and I think
the first time we interacted was I actually think I remember this. It was when you were doing a 4-man cast. It was with Hyperion, Fatal Fate, and I want to say Setback or something. And this was one of the ones where things got heated, and Hyperion was taking some flack from the chat. And then I asked in chat if you were doing call-ins at the time, because I heard something about those call-ins happening, and I had some questions. Right. But turns out that episode, because you had like 3 separate people who weren't doing call-ins, that was probably the first time we interacted, was me in chat.
Yeah, I do remember that moment. I do. I don't know if that was the first episode or if it wasn't. Hyperion was on 2 episodes. The one where I know there was like some disagreements was when we had Hyperion, Boogie, and Bleach. And that one, I know there was some disagreements, and I know chat had fun with kind of memeing.
Chat loves to egg shit on like that.
They do. They like the meme shit, right? But there was, but it's there. It is a debate stage. It's there. Sometimes, you're gonna have moments where people are passionate about their opinion or what's going on, and I expected that to take place. But on that though, I don't know that I'll ever do call-ins on the show, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because I have no control over what those individuals say or do. Just like whenever somebody was to like do like a tip or something, and you have like the message or the text to
The
speech or
text to
whatever,
speech.
I disable
Yeah.
all of that. You can't send a message on that, and I will read it, and I will say if it's actually appropriate or not. Because if it's not, then they're not going to get their gratification. I'll be like, thanks for the money. But because trolls will do that, and I try to avoid that stuff at all costs. So it's one of those things. But just like a radio show, I would love to do that. I would love to have a call screener that's able to do that, and I'm able to say, okay, this sounds good or whatever. But there's no surefire way to filter out all that stuff, and all it takes is one bad apple to get you banned on Twitch. Because let's be honest,
TOS.
yeah, TOS and well, to be blunt, we'll just say there's inconsistencies on certain the way certain things are kind of uh
Twitch moderation is fucked.
there you go. If we're being blunt, yeah, Twitch moderation is inconsistent and lacking in some areas. So, I get it's a big company. I get there's a lot of things they have to deal with, but at some point you have to take a stand and restructure so that you can be better. And we've seen a lot of inconsistencies over the years.
Just making
we
sure
still
there's no
do.
cat in the vicinity. Just make sure you don't get banned. I have 2 cats.
Well, as long as never mind, I'm not going there. I'm not going there. I'm ending the show. The show's fucking over. It's over now. Thank you guys so
GGs.
much for joining us. I really appreciate it. Verbalosity, it's been great having you with us. It's been fantastic. I look forward to seeing your casting of whatever it is that you're shoutcasting, whatever it is that you're streaming. You're a naturally charismatic motherfucker, and you are a fucking legend in the For Honor scene, man. I really appreciate you being with us tonight. We've had a lot of really good discussions, a lot of really good points, and hope and maybe in the future, maybe I'll be able to drag you on the show again in the future. I hope that that's something that's an option, but I'm not gonna talk about that right now. We'll talk about it another time. So thank you so much for being with us, man. Again, I'm your host Norgoz. This has been the weekly Warcry. We're not gonna have an outro tonight. We're just gonna end abruptly. So bye bye. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.